What is up, guys? Welcome to episode number 148 of Beef's Beef. Got a great interview with you. Wow, can't even talk today. I've been on the phone all day. So, and like I said before, my bad with the pictures that I put out with the wrong episode numbers. It's my fault. But I got another great interview for you today. You guys have already seen who it is. It's George Durant. But before I go into introing him, I want to give a word about our sponsors. So Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage, I can't mention her enough. She's been a big part of keeping Beef's Beef going. She is a fantastic sponsor, good friend of mine. Hit her up at 502-615-0743 for any home loan or mortgage needs, anything like that, anything to do with the home buying process, refinancing. Give her a call. Let her know that Beef sent you. Let her know that this sponsorship is actually doing something whenever you guys are looking to do something as far as home loans and stuff go and mortgages. Again, you can get in touch with her at 502-615-0743. Stockton Mortgage is an equal housing lender, MLS number 8259. Crystal Lackey, MLS number 1735979. The other sponsor we have is Delium Clothing. My friend Isaac is doing big things with Delium Clothing. Let's see if I can do it again. 2 days in a row. I told you I should be a teacher. Delium Clothing it's pronounced Delium. I know it's spelled Bdellium, but it's pronounced Delium. It's a men's and women's minimalistic brand that focuses on modern aesthetic and quality. And I can't say this enough. Everything comes pre-shrunk, so you don't have to worry about putting it in the dryer and it's shrinking up on you and you coming out looking like you got wrestling tights on. You're going to be good. Everything comes pre-shrunk. Find his line at Him's Gentleman's Boutique in downtown New Albany, Indiana. Find him on Facebook, Delium Clothing, and on Instagram at Delium Clothing. Again, that's Bdellium. Now, today I have a great interview with former UofL football linebacker George Durant. George Durant's career stretched from Steve Kragthorpe through Charlie Strong. So he had he played with a lot of cast of characters in that time. Some guys you may have heard of. Some are more in the news now than they were then. But he played with a lot of cast of characters. He played in a lot of big games. This guy worked his tail off to get where he was. And the guy continues to work his tail off. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys to hear this great interview. I think it's going to be a great one. But without further ado, Mr. George Durant. All right, guys, I'm here with George. How's it going, man?
All right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you taking out some time and joining me today. I know you got a busy schedule with work and everything. But yeah, I mean, I want to go ahead and get right into the episode because there's a lot of stuff that I want to get to talking about. So you were born in St. Petersburg, Florida, which right now is pretty close to Tampa. So, I mean, I'm guessing with that jersey, you're probably also a Bucks fan. So you're probably not really upset about the sports climate in that area right now.
Now we doing our thing, man. We doing our thing. You got, the Stanley Cup, right? The Lightning just won a Stanley Cup. We was looking for a three-peat, man, with the Rays. Man, devastating, man. Kevin Cash. But
so you're on the boat that he pulled him too early?
He definitely pulled him too early. When the pitcher, put his hands up, you know what I mean? Most pitchers, when they come out the game, it's like, all right, I was expecting that I'm getting a little tired, whatever the case may be. But, he didn't seem like he was too pleased, Blake Snell. So I'm willing to think that, he felt he was doing fine. We thought so. Eight batters, 7 strikeouts and an out, no runs on the board. And then the next 5 minutes, we give up 2, almost 3. He caught the ball in the warning track. You know what I mean? It was almost another homer. So I'm like, that was definitely everybody was kicking him in the butt. He didn't have to kick himself.
So you growing up in that area, did you play any other sports outside of football?
I played basketball before actually I started playing football. My dad was a big basketball guy, and plus in the area at the time you couldn't play before you were 8. So I started playing football when I was 8. Before that, I was playing basketball, and I played some AAU once I got to middle school. And then I picked back up playing basketball in high school, and then I ran track.
So you said they wouldn't allow you to play football until you were 8?
At that time, yep.
Is that just any football or just tackle?
They didn't have. They actually had. They came out with flag the year I was eligible to start my organization in our community. We didn't have flag at that time, so.
So living in the South Florida area, was Louisville a well-known football program in that area?
Probably I don't know. In our community, it was. So we had Ernest Givens, who's from St. Petersburg. He's a Louisville big time guy. Back in I think the 80s, maybe 70s, something like that. And then we had a couple guys that Pat Carter went to Louisville. Pretty sure you know that name. And J.R. Russell went to Louisville. So we had guys that were there, but it was kind of like under the radar, still, because they were either long ago like Ernest, or it was like a onesie twosie deal. But I think it was respectable being at in the Orange Bowl, in 2007 being in Miami. He probably was like, well, who is that? But then they made a little name there. And then obviously starting to recruit from the Florida area. You got the Bilal Powells, the Anthony, what's my man name? From Tampa, big running back that came up here.
Anthony Allen.
Anthony Allen. He was a dog in high school.
Yeah,
and to Tampa at Jesuit.
It sucks, man, because he was a solid freshman, man. He was a freshman on that Orange Bowl team. Mm-hmm. And his sophomore year, he comes out and runs for almost 300 yards in a game, and then ends up transferring after that year.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the beginning of all of us fans saying, like, oh, man, which we'll get into a little bit later because of with that. But so you went to – I don't want to butcher this, but I looked it up a couple times to make sure I said – so you went to high school at Boca Ciega, right?
Hey, you the only one to ever get that right on the first try.
So I gave myself away. I looked it up and did the pronunciation thing so I could hear how to say it. But so you mentioned playing basketball. Did you letter just in football and basketball when you were at Boca Ciega?
Track too. I actually I was this is to all my athletes out there too, my young guys. I was scared to get on the track, because I was slower than most of the people I hung around. You know what I mean? And I was scared out there to get embarrassed, But then as a junior, as a sophomore, I just only went to practice. And then as a junior, I only went to practice, and I started throwing a shot put in the discus, got pretty good at that. And then as a senior, I started actually running in meets. But I found that I wasn't taking it as serious because it was only practice. Mm-hmm. So it took me to actually get out there in the meets to really turn that switch on. And dude, man, I seen a guy, younger guy than me. His name was Darian Skinner, played at Murray State here a couple years ago in like 2011, 12, 13. And he came into high school as a ninth grader, and he ran a 14-second 100-yard dash. By the time his senior year, he was almost breaking 10. He got down to like 11.3 or 11.4 or something like that.
Wow.
In 100.
So I want to ask you this because I obviously I didn't run track, but they say a lot of the things with track is just making sure, or it's learning how to run properly. A lot of people don't do well in track because they don't know how to run properly. Is that true?
Yeah, you got a lot of, like, for me, I would take wide steps. So, you think about pistons going straight up and down, my feet would go wide out of the blocks and then I would straighten up. So imagine how much more ground I'm gaining going forward than if on those first couple steps I step side to side out of the block. So understanding that, you talking about milliseconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How hard was it to learn that? Because, I mean, you think, learning how to run is probably not – I guarantee you it's a lot harder than what people think.
Well, for me, it was easy for me to be a student because I was slow. You know what I mean? So I'm out here eager, like, how can I get fast, right?
Yeah.
Versus some other guys where, you have speed, you get that God give it can still be honed and processed to be faster. But you got guys that come into the game, and they are legit fast genetically. it's probably it's a little bit harder to them because they've been doing street races or whatever the case may be and beating people. And it's like, hey, you don't run well. Like, what do you mean I don't run well?
So you played football and basketball and ran track. Did any of your teammates go Division I in any of those other sports?
Man, a lot of my teammates, man. And I'm sure we'll get into the recruiting process. That's what really stirred me up to push harder in my recruiting process for years, starting with my freshman year. Our quarterback went to Maryland. He played safety. I think he played a little bit of receiver early on, but he landed at safety. He ended up going to the NFL out of Maryland. Following that, our next biggest guy, that was Terrell Skinner. Jamar Newsom went to UCF, and we had guys that didn't go as big as those guys as well, but they went, other levels. Went to UCF, played in the NFL. Then Josh Bellamy went to my high school, also played here at Louisville.
That guy, not to interrupt you, that guy's still in the NFL.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Josh Bellamy is still in the NFL.
Yeah. Right now, I know he's going through a rehab deal with his shoulder. He had a shoulder injury. So he's like on IR or something like that. But, that was the thing. Him and another guy, man, one of my past teammates who's actually he passed away a couple years ago. One of my good friends, they were special team demons. And that's what propelled me to actually start getting into the special teams game, which is why I love it so much. And then my class, we kind of had an explosion. Our quarterback, Orion Johnson, went to Ohio State. He brought all the recruits out. Ohio State was the only school that he went to where he was like, well, I'm going to go play safety. Every other school he was going to go play quarterback at. So everybody wanted a good quarterback. He was the number 2 dual threat quarterback in our class in the state. And he went to Ohio State, played safety, did some time in NFL. One of our defensive ends played at Coastal Carolina. We had one of our receivers play at Murray State. So seeing all that talent, and then Anthony Atkins, that's one of my players, Anthony Allen, right across the bridge, and A.J. Jones. We looking at these guys across the bridge. I'm like, man, we playing against these guys. I'm like, bro, I'm going to go D1. I got to go D1. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been playing with them my whole life. You know what I mean? It's nothing but the next level. I got to go.
So you just mentioned part of it. Let's talk about the recruiting process outside of Louisville first, though, because we obviously know that you went to Louisville. Did you take any official visits outside of Louisville, and did you ever get close to committing somewhere else?
I took some unofficials. My only other official visit was going to be University of Buffalo. Me and Khalil Mack probably would have been in the same class when he went there. They had a coaching change. I think Turner Gill came in. They fired that staff previously. And Matt House, who was actually just the defensive coordinator at Kentucky, unfortunately. But he was recruiting me like heavily. Came down home visit to my house. He actually went to the wrong house, and I'm like, "Yo, I'm across the street." Funny story, but
let's hear it, man. Let's hear the story.
So it's short-lived, but it's funny to me because I'm from there, right? So my zip code is probably one of it's the largest zip code in the city of South St. Petersburg, on the south side, in the hood. A lot of crime, all that type of stuff. And my block was like Front Street. It's almost like Broadway, right here in Louisville, but down towards the west end. And so everybody ride by all the time. And so he goes across the street to my guy named Tutu. Now Tutu he wasn't like Tutu, small Tutu Atwell. Yeah. Tutu was a big old dude. I don't know why they call him Tutu. Big old dude. Huge dude. You know what I'm saying? Big burly looking Kimbo Slice type of dude. And he pulls up at his house. And I'm like, no, coach. Hey, I'm across the street. I'm flickering the light like, hey, come over here. I'm flickering the porch light. And he was like, he said, everything all right? I said, it is now. You pull on over here, you don't want to go over there.
Yeah.
But so he recruited me heavily, man. And they got fired. I didn't hear from nobody, right? And I was actually about to take my visit. I wanted to do engineering. They got an awesome engineering program out there in Buffalo. And didn't hear from anyone. And I later heard, I went to prep school after that, And I later heard from somebody in the recruiting process, and it was asking me about my school and recruiting. And I told them, at Buffalo, that's probably where I was going to commit to if I had a chance. And he was like, "Oh, that staff got fired." I'm like, "Oh, now
well, that makes sense why I'm not hearing from him now."
Makes sense, right?
So you were going to commit to Buffalo if they would have kept recruiting you.
Absolutely. I always tinkered, man, when I was a kid. Radios, remote control cars, anything electronic, and that's why I wanted to go. They had a good engineering program. I had looked it up. Me and my mom, was like, "Hey, this is the spot." I was always good at math, and that was gonna be the spot, man. Me and Khalil Mack.
So you came to Louisville as a walk-on. What was that like? Explain the recruiting process with Louisville. Were you offered a preferred walk-on spot? Which, for those people that don't know what a preferred walk-on spot is, a preferred walk-on spot is where a university will offer a guy a spot, but they won't give him a scholarship. But they'll say, "We'll go ahead and guarantee that you have a spot on the team as a walk-on, but you're not going to have a scholarship." So, were you offered a preferred walk-on spot? Like, explain the process with Louisville.
So, man, this is an untold story right here. And I probably could speak on it now because it was handled within the confinements of that time with compliance and stuff. So rewind, then fast forward after Buffalo, I get recruited by 2 prep schools. I was on my way to junior college, actually with Josh Bellamy at the time, and Preston Pace, who actually went to my high school as well, was recruited here. They both were at a junior college at the time. And they was like, "Man, you can come out here, man. We balling." I think that's the same junior college that Aaron Rodgers and his brother Jordan Rodgers went to. And they won a national championship, I think that same year, and or the year after, which is the year I would have been there as a freshman. And that's where I was headed. And literally up until the point, about to get on the plane, they called me like, "Hey, you coming out here? Your name's on the study hall list." I was headed out there and ended up getting recruited by Gyra Prep, preparatory school in North Carolina, small Matthews, Monroe, North Carolina, right across about 30 minutes away from Charlotte. And that's where I ended up going to prep school, which is like a post-grad program, not a part of the NCAA, to get another extended at least a semester. And I was actually a qualifier through the NCAA clearinghouse, which is not an eligibility center, but I was under recruited, and I would have my eyes just set on Buffalo. And Southern Miss was in the picture, but it was not that I was a big time recruit, but I wasn't even answering I'll call you back if I missed a call or something like that, because I was like, I'm going to Buffalo,
Yeah.
So my other recruiting, it kind of faded. They felt the disinterest. Not that I told them you're not good enough. They felt
your actions told them that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I was so set on Buffalo, which you don't put all your eggs in the same basket. And so after that, I came home and I was working out. I was working at Tropical Smoothie on the beach. And I was working out that next spring semester after the fall semester at Gyra Prep. And those guys that were in college, we all worked out together that I mentioned earlier. They spring break, winter break, all that stuff. They see me working out. And Julius Forte, who actually played at South Florida, was being recruited by Louisville as well as a big-time defensive end. And him and Preston Pace, they were getting in-home visits. And I'm like, "Hey, bro, if a school come to your house, I'm staying the night." I promise. I say, if they come to your house, I'm staying the night. So this was before huddle. I made my highlight tape 2 VCRs stacked on top of each other. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Push play on one, record on the other. So I'm like, "Bro, I'm staying the night at your crib, on the floor in front of the wherever I'm staying the night. If they come, let me know." And I actually did that. And my boy Preston, who ended up committed and signing here. Louisville came, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, and Middle Tennessee State. So Middle Tennessee State comes. Coach Goss, who's I think he coaches at Carson Newman now, who is actually on the Louisville staff, and I'll tell you how he got there. He come from Middle Tennessee State. I say, Coach, here go my highlight tape. And he was like, hey, remember that my man? He's like, this is George, who I told you about. I was in the prep school. He said, oh, yeah, I remember you. He told me. He said, I got my computer. Let's pop it in. I had burned it to a DVD. He's like, okay, I'll take it back with me. I'll show Coach. And the next time he came back, he was on Louisville staff, literally. The next time he came back, he was coaching for University of Louisville. And he was like, you still here? I'm like, every time. I said, every time I'm here, I'm going to be here. Whoever come, I'm here. Here go my tape. He said, I got you. Hey, here you go. You new school, new tape.
You're like a guy trying to give out his mixtape, dude.
Hey, yeah, man. I was hustling, man. I was like on the street corner with the sign like, struck interest. I mean, this guy can actually play some ball, and I was close to Preston. It might have been a ploy to say, hey, your guy want to come, we'll get you two or whatever, but, I take it how I can get it. And so
they kind of made it a package deal type thing?
Almost. That wasn't the verbiage, but, that's what, that's like these guys are really close.
Yeah.
So, we think this will be a way, I said, I don't care. Just let
whatever it takes to get me there. Let's do it.
Get me out of St. Pete. And so I go on the visit, and my boy Julius Forte, Juju, calls me. And he's like, bro, the Louisville coaches just called me. What's up? You going up there? I say, man, I just came on a visit. I was actually getting on the plane. And he's like, bro, that's what's up. I went on a visit. He wanted to visit with my soon-to-be roommate, Mike Privet. They went on a visit together.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Right. That's my guy. He just won a national state championship in Virginia as a defensive coordinator. Good guy. So boom, I'm in the Papa John suite in the stadium, and he's like, "Hey, how you like to visit?" I'm like, "I loved it, Coach. It's cardinal birds everywhere. I don't really see this in my community. South Florida's across the bridge. St. Pete College is a small, college. It's not a lot. The Bucks are across the bridge. I stay on the other side of town from the Rays Stadium. So where I'm at, I don't see a lot of, pumping. And back then, we didn't have a Walmart near me. So now you go see, shirts of high schools, all in every Walmart around your community. Yeah. We didn't have that at the time. So it was fresh. I'm like, man, y'all all about the bird. I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming. Can I come? He said, are you committed? I said, yeah, let's go. And so he told me, he said, all right, man, we'll get you here in camp. And I said, Coach, what does this look like? And at the time, it was Coach Kragthorpe. He told me that they had a lot of recruits that had committed, and he explained the game. He said, it depends on what happens, who signs. We may have some cheese for you. I said, okay, cool. I said, but can I come up here on the first day of camp? Can I be at practice? He said, oh, yeah, you'll be here. Nothing else needs to be said. I'm coming. Right?
Yeah.
And so when I get here in the summertime, all my books and everything, it's paid for. Right? So I'm like, whoa, okay, this is I don't know nothing, never been in school, none of that. And
you think this is a part of it? Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I'm thinking
your guy just like, okay, this is what's supposed to happen with a football player.
This is the deal. Just the deal. And they ended up rectifying that through compliance once Coach Strong kind of got here and they were re-looking at the books and everything. Me and him met. He was like, man, Durant, what you got going on here? I said, what you talking about, Coach? He's like, man, I'm looking at your stuff, me in compliance, I'm like, Coach, first, my mom, I got 4 sisters. My mom ain't got no college football studs walking around the way we know what we doing. I say, I'm here, man, in school playing ball. Like, you tell me what y'all see. Yeah. And so they ended up getting that ironed out, which actually caused me to lose a eligibility year because of that. I lost the year eligibility.
So what did they say happened?
Well, that scholarship funds were given to me, and I hadn't signed a letter of intent.
So technically, like, nothing that really happened was really shady or anything like that. You just didn't sign a piece of paper. Like, it wasn't some, like, used car salesman just throwing money in for a
No,
football player. It was just
no.
they allocated scholarship funds
I
for
wasn't
you.
good enough for that. Maybe they hit the wrong button or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they ended up getting it rectified. Later on, and but it did cost me a year eligibility though. So I redshirted and I sat out a year.
So you came in under Coach Craigthorpe, and
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about when you first got here. What was that locker room like? Was it full of guys that believed he could still turn it around? Was it full of guys that were like, we're ready for this year to be over because we know he's gone after this? Like, what was it like?
I think I would say it was a full of guys that knew in their ability, right? I think everyone thought he was a swell guy, but they had been in the program, and most of those guys were recruited or played on that Orange Bowl team we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So to see the decline from 12-1 to 6-6, 5-7, and then inevitably 4-8 that third year, it was like, man, it ain't getting no better, you know. And we're in games, you know, for the most part, and losing it, you know, like the last second or the last two drives. Like one of the bigger games was Pittsburgh in that blackout in 2009. You know, we were in it, and then they struck gold in the last, in the part of the fourth quarter and blew it open. You know, but we were in games and just couldn't close, couldn't finish. I think they were motivated just by, you know, like knowing that they had ability, not that it was coming from the coaching staff per se.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it was guys that were kind of like, I need to make sure that I do what I do so other people see it, because we're probably not going to win games with this coaching staff.
I can't speak for everybody. That could have been, you know, but I knew guys knew they could play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, as I'll speak on this as a fan, because I've been a lifelong fan, and you know, I've seen guys like Ron Cooper to John L. Smith to, you know, all the way up. You know, you got the sense in the very first game when they played, I believe it was Murray State. They beat the brakes off of Murray State in his very first game, and you had guys like Brian Brom, Harry Douglas, all those guys still on the team. But you could see there was something just off. You didn't know what it was, but you could see that there was, and it was like, maybe we hired this guy a little too early. Maybe he struck gold in Tulsa with one season, and we hired this guy too early.
Well, I think the immediate, like, cause from Kragthorpe and Petrino are like heads and tails.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, on a dollar in a penny, like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not to say who's who, but they're so different. You know what I mean? Not only are they heads and tails, they're two different types of currency, you know, almost, right?
Yeah.
And you go from a lackadaisical guy and Petrino, from as far as off the field, like all he was football only. You know what I mean? From the guys I spoke with before me, and the guys I spoke with when I left.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like the meat in between the bun. Petrino sandwich. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So both, it was the same story. Right? And so with Kragthorpe, you know, he had been in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And so his you know, he was a little bit different the way he moved, you know. And it was just like hitting the brakes. You know what I mean? Like totally.
Yeah. I mean, there were some guys on those teams. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I mean, there was a big one that was from the area that got kicked off the team that was a big part of part of that Orange Bowl team. That a lot of people were like, well, you kind of heard some things, and that was the excuse early on for Kragthorpe. But I feel like once it got to, you know, second and third year, it's like, you're starting to get your guys in here. Like, that can't be the excuse that you're still cleaning the house anymore. Like, the first year when you struggle, there's some bad apples in here. We got to get rid of them. But, like, after a while, man, you can't – like, everybody's not a bad apple. At some point, you got to realize, man, maybe it's the tree.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
And so you brought up the Pittsburgh game. I want to ask you about something. So that Pittsburgh game, you guys were in that Pittsburgh game for a long time. And then there was a play in the fourth quarter by – you see my – Patriots, or you can't see my Patriots gear, but I'm a Patriots fan. Former Patriot Deion Lewis scores, and it kind of puts the game out of hand. And you had mentioned to me that you listened to something that I talked to with one of your former teammates, Rod Holloman. And I asked a question to him, and you said, I want you to make sure that that's on my questions. So I want to talk to you about this because this is a situation that I speak with other fans. And I feel like this is a way that we can kind of set this straight because you have players that, speak on it. So my big thing is fans getting there late and leaving early. I hate it. I think that our fan base is one of the worst for it that has a decent football program. Every couple of years we're really, really good. And then, other than that, we're a pretty good team. But our fans, it takes one thing and it's like, well, I want to beat the traffic. Well, all you are leaving. So in that game, he scores that touchdown and some of the fans start leaving early. Does that affect you and your play on the field? Like, first off, do you notice it? Second off, does it affect your play? And speak on what your feelings are on fans getting there late and leaving early.
So I'm gonna preface it first by saying this is with the utmost love, for the fan base. I have children, and if my children get out of line, I'm gonna correct them with love. I'm gonna give them my opinion, whether they like it or not. With love, don't mean I don't love you, respect you, any of that. So the first part of it, I notice it. You know what I mean? I notice a lot. I notice my surroundings. I grew up that way. Now, does it probably affect my field, my play on the field? Once you inside the lines, you inside the lines, right?
Yeah.
So maybe not so much, right? But I think you kind of notice it. It's like, oh, dang, it's kind of quiet in here now, right? But I think you go back to right now, a couple weeks ago in this COVID period where Dan Mullen, right, practically on national TV begs the school and the administration to allow fans to come to the LSU game next week after leaving the 12th man.
Yeah.
That stadium was jumping. And they asked him, do you think that had an effect on the game? He said, absolutely, I do. Right? Yeah. Where most time coaches like, oh, we just play ball, So you notice it.
Yeah.
Right? And that Pittsburgh game, man, when he scored that touchdown, I felt like I almost heard the seats pop up. With the amount of people that got out of their seats, it was like all the seat back chairs went pop, 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 all at the same time. And they just, you hear footsteps rushing up the steps, trying to get out of there. Every aisle was packed, and 30 to 40% of the seats were starting to get empty.
Yeah.
And I remember as a freshman, right, being so close to these games, I think that was our first conference game. You look up, they starting the first expansion, right? And it's like we in all black, we blacked out. I think that game was on national television. You know what I mean? If I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, bro, where y'all going? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gonna buck like that? I'm a guy, until it's 3-0 on the clock, I'm gonna keep going. I was that way even, as a kid, playing a game with my friends. They get mad at me because it's 21 rule. I'm like, no, you gotta call it before the game. Well, you losing by 30, bro. It ain't 0-0-0 yet. You gotta play me. I might come back. You know what I mean? So that's just me. That's just me. But I definitely think it's a two-way street. We work extremely hard to put on the show. You know what I'm saying? For our friends on the back of our jersey and families, and the folk that say they support us on the front. You know what I mean? And in between that is still a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That wants both, right, front and back. That's around me to appreciate what I'm out here doing. We go. I'm pretty sure you've seen it on social media or in the schedule of a Division I athlete from 5 a.m. with workouts and weights to 10 at night. You know what I mean? With study hall, dragging yourself in the bed to do it again, and it's all mandatory. Ain't no outsies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't no backsies with that. You got it's mandatory.
Yeah.
All of it. You know what I mean? And the majority of people in the common state of this country, they don't put in an amount of work in a day. You know what I mean? Physical exertion and mental exertion that Division I athletes and professional athletes put on the table. You know
Now,
what I mean? But
I'm going to ask you a question real quick, not to interject, but this may be something when I ask you this question, I just want you to say yes or no, because this honestly may lead us to a different episode to where we have a panel. Do you think that college athletes should be paid?
Yes.
All right. We're going to get another episode together then, because that's an episode. I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm not going to speak anymore on it because I want to be able to have that episode to where we can kind of have a panel discussion where, I find somebody that doesn't believe that. We can get two different opinions. But you talking about that, I kind of felt like you were like that's what you were leaning towards, like that's what you would say.
Yeah, that wasn't on my mind, but I think so. I think so.
So you played 1 year with Craigthorpe, like we just mentioned, and he gets let go. And something that I didn't – you spoke on it where you said, a lot of the guys were like, oh, yeah, he's a nice guy and everything. I gained a lot of respect for him in that last press conference whenever he got let go. Him saying, yes, I could have quit and I probably should have. But one, I'm not a quitter. And two, if I did quit, then my assistants wouldn't have gotten paid. And it was like, man, I feel like a piece of crap for talking crap about this guy. It's like, man, we want you gone. Like the earliest you leave or the earlier you leave, the more time we had to find a coach. But after he leaves, are you guys like a part of the process at all? Like, are you guys informed at all of like who they're looking at? Like is Jurich like staying in contact with you or any of the assistants? Like, hey, this is kind of like who they're looking at to replace Coach Kragthorpe?
He met with us like twice, probably 3 times. He met with us after Craigthorpe was fired. He met with us, told us that that they had settled in on a guy, and then he said, I'll let you guys see it. We feel pretty confident. I'll let you guys kind of have that awe moment, once it's released. And then he met with us prior to Coach Strong coming. If I'm not, I could be wrong on that. So he did. He was, but it wasn't like you guys write down, everybody write down 2 coaches type of deal. And it wasn't nothing like that though.
So let's take you back to the first day Coach Strong comes in there. I want you to kind of give us an insight of what that meeting was like and what your feelings were like. Could you tell it was going to be different from the very beginning?
Oh yeah. Well, growing up in Florida, I knew about him, and we still had a significant amount of guys, from Florida, and obviously Tim Tebow and those guys. So we're there, and their defense was, top 3 every single year.
Yeah.
So Brandon Spikes, Dunlap, Joe Hayden, those guys, Major Wright, if you're a guy in college football, those guys and what they're doing. So, you know him. And so when he first walks in, everybody's talking, kind of lounging, leaning down in the seats. And he walks through the door and, everybody shut up, right? As soon as he opens the door, everybody shut up. And on both sides, they've remodeled it then, but on both sides of the stadium seating of our team room, there's steps, there's a walkway. So I think our media guy was standing on the right side as you come in, and he walks in. He don't say nothing to nobody. He walks up the steps to him, and he says something in his ear, and he walks back out. Right.
Just walks out of the room.
This is to my memory. Yep. And so when he walks back out, we like, what the heck? So then he comes back like a minute later, And this probably was him, like after being around him for 4 years, this was probably playing, right? He ain't had nothing to do out there. That's what he do. One time he kicked us out of the locker room because he said it was being too messy, and we had to go spend the whole summer in the away locker room. Which, if you watch, there's a thing called Campus Lure, and they did a lot of the former college players in the ACC or really throughout the country that are in the NFL now. Mm-hmm. It's like, what was the worst visit locker room? And just about everybody that played in the ACC that had been to Louisville was like, Louisville. It smelled like gas because the lawn care equipment is right across the way from it. That they mow the grass, the landscaping equipment, it smells like gas. So we in there for the whole summer.
Wow.
Because he said we was being too messy, but they were redoing the carpet in the locker room.
So what happened when he came back in?
So when he came back in, we were still silent. Nobody spoke a word. And he goes to the podium, and he just like, he is not like, hey, I'm Charlie Strong. It's like y'all ran a good. He said, I want to say the first. He said, y'all ran a good coach out of here. That's the first thing he said.
Wow.
He said, y'all ran. He said, it's a good guy. It's a good coach. You know, he's respectable. You know, and what he's done. Y'all ran a good coach out of here. First words he said. He talks about Craigthorpe. You know, in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, and then he immediately pulled out the grade report. Starts talking about grades, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It wasn't good at all. You know what I mean? And he read us the rights, man. You know what I mean? For that whole meeting. You know, and then afterwards it was like, Coach Moore, what time you got him? And Coach Moore was like, 0500. And everybody look over, like, is this dude from the military? You know? Yeah. And like a couple years later, I said, Coach, why you always say 0500, 06? I said, well, you in the military? He said, hell no, there ain't no damn military. You know? I said, man, why you do that? That's what time it is. I said, okay.
Okay. You don't question that. Yeah.
No questions asked.
So I think I have to ask, so you being from the state of Florida and you're being from Florida and coming into Louisville, first off, what's your opinion of the Governor's Cup game? And second off, is it as heated as you thought? More heated than you thought? What's your thoughts on the rivalry with Louisville and Kentucky?
It's a good one, right? Yeah. It's more times lopsided than most, right? You know, I ain't gonna say that because, you know, you got Ohio State tearing into Michigan right now.
Yeah.
For a while, but it goes there's never like a back to back, right?
Yeah. Usually one's winning for multiple years in a row.
Yeah. You know, and it's not often close a lot of times, except for the year, you know, and was it 14 when Gerard Ottoman picked it off in the end of the game? I think we won by 3.
And even 16, they kicked a field goal to. Actually, I mean, it was close there for a while because the first year Craigthorpe, you had I hate that game.
Oh man,
Stevie got loose is what they call it.
I love my big bro to death, man, and I know he feel it, you know. But that punt, you know, we had that one until that punt with my guy, you know, one of the best guy athletes I would play on the field with, Trent Guy, you know, and he actually had a hell of a game that game too.
Yeah. But yeah, Stevie got loose. I mean, but yeah, the past 2 years, Kentucky has beat the brakes off of us. Yeah. And then every time before that,
you know, I know we handled them pretty good, you know, in those years I was there. But I don't think I think that man, we are not nice in Florida. Yeah. So it's like here it's like, oh, you know, I just go for the other team if they playing unless they playing the other team.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm not like that.
We don't rock like that, man.
Yeah, people are like, oh, you're a hater. And you're like, you're absolutely right, I'm a hater. I hate Kentucky.
You know, allegedly, the Gatorade formula was stolen from Florida State's lab, and they made a Gatorade, so then they made Powerade. Like Florida State doesn't drink Gatorade. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't coming just across them tracks. You know, it ain't like that down there. It ain't, you know, it's a house divided, like literally. You know, You know, TV's on here, I'm going over here to watch Florida State. Like, I'm not rooting for them, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that it's stronger down there to me. I think it's stronger. And I think that it's more it's bigger in basketball, maybe. You know,
I don't think that's a maybe. I don't I don't think it's a maybe. I don't think that's at all. I mean, like it's as close as or as nice as it is, people don't say it in basketball.
Yeah.
People don't say it. Yeah, I'd root for them. No.
Yeah.
It ain't like that here.
But you know, it's different year round, man. If I'm gonna root for the school, and like the school's playing, you know, like I'm not rooting for them at all, you know. But you know, we consider it to be a basketball state, which you know I don't know why, because very seldomly do the basketball players from either school come from here. So,
well, you know, see, that's just crazy, man. This city used to be a hotbed for basketball talent. I mean, you have a few Hall of Famers up until – I mean, you just had one win a title this year, Rajon Rondo. Mm-hmm. Rajon Rondo's from Louisville. D'Angelo Russell's from Louisville. Keelan Martin. Yeah,
you know, you got you know, but even just from the state, you know, but they, like I say, they don't end up here. You know, you got Ohio State, you got I think Butler. Yeah. Then you got, you know, my man that's from Taylorsville, that's at Gooden. Quentin
Gooden. Yeah, one of my best friends. It's actually been on here a bunch of times. Coach Quentin Gooden.
You know what I mean? So like they don't get them here.
I'm really surprised to hear you bring up Quentin Gooden. Not that he's not talented, but that's crazy that you know Quentin Gooden.
Yeah, so Gooden, you know I'm well traveled in my short time here, man. You know I coach his little brother Trey, who's at EKU.
Yeah,
he played on my 707 team. Who's a heck of an athlete, man. Good kid, good family.
I remember, when Gatewood was coaching him, so Gatewood, his coach at Taylor County in Campbellsville, is one of my best friends. I coached with him at Moore whenever I coached J.J. Weaver.
I got you.
And he's like, man, you got to come out and watch us practice. This is right after he left Moore to go to Taylor County. And he's like, you got to come watch us practice. I got a kid here that's the best player in the state in his class. It's like, all right. So I go out there, and I'm like, he's like, I'm not going to tell you which one it is because it's not going to take you long to know which one it is. This kid has a cast on his right hand. He had broken his hand. He is playing the entire scrimmage with his left hand, and he's right-handed. And he is doing whatever he wants, and he's a sophomore at this point. And I was like, yeah, with your coaching talents and this kid's talent, like, it's going to get bad. And they went to back-to-back Sweet 16s with him.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I think he's in his senior year.
He just graduated, actually. He just graduated this past year, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's a heck of a player.
And I know you know it from coaching his younger. That's a great family.
Great family.
Great family, man.
No, I remember when his brother, he came to the first practice. His dad's a coach. His dad coaches at
His dad coached with Gatewood at Taylor County, yeah.
And he says, Coach D, man, you know, I see you working with Trey. He's like, man, what can we do? You know what I mean? Kind of to get, you know, humble, man. You know, he's all about them boys, man, and about you know, anybody that's trying to further any kid. You know what I mean? Good people, real good people, the goodness, man. But I would say, man, that like you say, it's the rivalry. I don't think football wise, the attitude is up there with the upper echelon. Whether
I can agree with that.
You know what I mean? Whether it's lopsided, you know, USC, UCLA, whoever it is. If it's lopsided, you know, the hate is still present. And I feel like it's a lot more friendlier here. But the fan base, too, I don't know if it's because Louisville was initially a commuter school and it's landlocked and it's small, the campus. I don't know, man, because, like, I remember after we played them, they beat us in that 2009 game we were just talking about. No, I'm sorry, in 2010, the Randall Cobb one-hand.
I was at that game. So, like I said, I've been a fan my entire life, but I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So we weren't – like, I would get to go to games like, you know, Murray State and stuff like that. Like, I didn't get to go to Kentucky. Well, I got lucky and my buddy bought student tickets and gave them to me. So, like, I paid for them, you know what I'm saying? But, like, he got – I was at that game, and I remember that catch to this day. He's going over the middle and just – I'm like – as much as I hate Kentucky, that's a dude that's going to get my respect because the guy can play.
I give two guys that I've played against, you know, I'm okay with with their successes. not that I root for him or whatever, but I'm like, yeah, him, like guys that beat us by themselves, like he was one.
I can already guess
Right.
the second one, and I don't want you to say it because we're going to talk about him later.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Those two.
I already know it, and people that are Louisville fans know who we're alluding to. I was at that game too.
Like, and no disrespect, like, I played against Isaiah P, you know what I'm saying? It's terrible, like with his unfortunate leg injury, into his career. Travis Kelce, Pro Bowl All-World tight end, who we shut down, with my position at linebacker, I was primarily responsible for the tight end.
Yeah.
In that game, I think I had a heck of a game, man. I dropped the interception. We had wear that all white in the rain. And I was that interception away from being Big East Player of the Week, which they gave to Preston Brown because he caught the interception that I dropped. And I think I held Travis Kelce to 2 catches, throughout that game. And he was their leading receiver in catches, touchdowns, and yards.
What's crazy, man, is I just looked at him. I don't remember him at Cincinnati.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, but you had the game plan for it. So of course you do. But I don't remember him.
It wasn't easy now. He was. We both, and I don't know. He's had a much longer illustrious football career than myself. But in that game, he got a personal foul against me. I got a personal foul against him. He got a holding penalty. I got a hands to the face. Like we were like fighting out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had words, we was duking it out. But like I said, that was the best game of my career. But that's what happens when you play the best. You turned it up.
Yeah.
You turned it up.
So your all's first season under Coach Strong was filled with ups and downs. You mentioned that UK game, which you lost at home. But the regular season, like I said, was filled with ups and downs. But then you all go and you all win the BFO Brady Bowl. You all go 6-6 in the regular season, go and win the BFO Brady Bowl. What was it like to not only go back home, but to play in a bowl game and get a win in your home city?
It was great, man. That was the year after our red shirt that I talked about. I had to sit out because of those compliance issues, so I didn't play. Right, and not being confident in myself at the time, I have a very huge regret, and I actually told her this. Jenna Lane, she's a ESPN reporter for the Buccaneers right now. At the time, she was a local reporter, sports reporter. She then went to report for South Florida. Now she's with the Bucs, homegrown. And our media guy came to me, and he was like, "Hey, you got an interview." And I'm like, "From who?" Right? I ain't stepped on the field yet, And she wanted to interview me. I turned it down.
Man.
And she wanted to interview me just about being, from the same question you're asking me.
Yeah.
And I had the same story to tell, or half of it, like I told about the recruiting process and everything. I probably could have said it in more detail then.
Yeah.
And probably for a lot of guys behind me that went through the similar situations, prep school, JUCO, unrecruited, how to go through things, and it could have been a real good piece of information. And I wasn't confident enough that I deserved that interview because I hadn't done anything, and I turned it down. And recently, we talked about it. I messaged her. I'm cool with her on Instagram, and we talked about that this year, and she was real cool about it, and things like that. And we have a decent relationship. But going back, man, I was hyped at the same time. I was hyped, but I was like almost. I still feel like I had a burden because I'm going home. Like, we not just in the Bay Area. We're playing in the Trop.
Yeah.
Right? In St. Pete. Right? Tickets for all the folks. And I'm like, I'm not even feel. So it's like, dang, man, but that's part of the growing process. And I wasn't mature enough at that time to realize that, to still uplift my community and be seen and say, hey, God, I ain't on the stage yet, but I made it here. I fought, but that was my whole feeling about that whole trip.
So was that something like this isn't on there, but this is just something I'm wondering about hearing you talk about it. Was it something that you thought about maybe transferring?
No, it wasn't about transferring at all. It was just really about, like I told you, I say, man, my fight to get to Division I, unrecruited or mildly recruited, but playing Division I guys, my entire life, playing against them, playing with them, knowing that I had the capability, but I still had that chip on my shoulder that I hadn't proved myself, so I didn't feel like I had a reason to talk. You know what I mean? I grew up like, hey, you gonna put up or shut up.
Yeah.
You know
So I regret not asking this question. I don't want to lead it. So let's take it back to, if you had to put your finger on one thing, in your opinion, looking at it now as a mature adult, what would you say went into the reasoning why you weren't recruited as much, even just to the outside of Buffalo? Do you think, would you put it strictly just on I was too zoned in on Buffalo, or would you say that, maybe you just there was just something else there that maybe you saw as an adult?
Looking at me, like I said, I was slow, but I was smart. Like I was slower than the faster of the linebackers, but I wasn't always the fastest. I was very mild and medium and average in my tested, right?
Yeah.
But I was always smart. I always got to the ball. I was always effective. So looking at it now as a coach, which I am, and helping kids get recruited, my tape didn't pop out, right? It didn't have a wow factor. Now, my first 4 clips of my high school tape, like I was knocking people out, but that's like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Where's the longevity of that? You know what I'm saying? So can you sustain that play? Here it is. You got your best clips first from your entire season, and you done knock a couple people out 4 times, and play is 4 to 6 seconds. So you talking 20 seconds in my first 3 or 4 clips where I'm knocking people out, and then it's like, where the rest of you laying on the pile and all this type of stuff. So it did. My tape didn't pop. I had 1 pick on there. I think it was a tip pass. But I wasn't in coverage much.
I feel like it's almost fair to say that really wasn't your fault that you weren't really that recruited.
No,
you didn't have people like you around you to show you what you should have done with that tape. And
now I had shout out to Coach Williams, Coach Decky, a lot of those Coach Coop down back at home. They're still doing it. My youth league coach helped me make my tape. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He and his wife, Coach Decky, they helped me make my tape, and so they helped guide us. Now, because of the 4 years of my high school career in those classes that were around those years, since then you get the Marquez Valdez Scantley, big time receiver. He's from St. Pete. The Griffin twins that are in Seattle, they're from St. Pete. You get Bernard Reedy, who ripped it up at Toledo, who had a short career in the NFL with a couple different teams. And before us, you got Lewis Murphy, who had a good career in the NFL, played for the University of Florida. So it was stagnant for a while, and then from 06 to 08 and 09, that's when it was really starting to get molded, and after that, everything just exploded.
Yeah.
So my generation of that time was kind of like the lamb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And made for a better tomorrow. Down there in St. Pete, man. I'm happy for it.
So let's move back to the other question. So in 2011, it started with a win over Murray State at home, which most thought would be the next game would carry the same thing. You all have a team in FIU coming into town. And I will remember this day for the rest of my life for a couple of reasons. One, I had the rehearsal dinner for one of my best friend's wedding that night. And he's a huge UK fan. But we level on the fact that, hey, man, I know you're a big sports guy. So, you knock out whatever we got to do here, make my wife happy, which I'm really good friends with both of them still. I got them together. She graduated with me. He graduated a year after me. He was like, and you can dip out early. You ain't got to stay for the dinner because I had season tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I dip out to the game, and I have to work at UPS after that game. So you got to think, rehearsal dinner, football game in between it, then going to work. And I come to the game, and I'm like, all right, yeah, we're going to beat the brakes off FIU. Let's get this over, and then get ready for Kentucky next week. And then it happens. Explain what that game was like, because I know this is the other person you were going to mention. Mm-hmm. Explain what it was like to see T.Y. Hilton win the game essentially by himself. The guy had 7 receptions for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I remember it was the exact same play every time. He literally just ran a go route right down the coming towards me. It felt like every time he ran a go route out of the slot and just beat the DBs on the backside and caught a ball over the top.
He took a slant about 70 to the crib in Randall Cobb fashion, where nobody caught him. Also, but so we had at that time we had Michael Lee Harris on the team. We had a couple of the guys from South Florida. I think it was from Fort Lauderdale area on the team as well. Brandon Heath was on the team, and those guys, like, they grew up knowing him and watching that guy. So legend has it is that he picked FIU because his son picked the hat up off the table. That's why he went to FIU. That's how the legend, like, he's got all these big schools. Like, he wasn't under recruited. His son was like, hey, go to FIU. That's how the story goes. That I heard.
Wow.
And but they were like, hey man, we can contain this guy, right? You know, know where number 4 is at all times. You know, we know that we can bracket him. We can do some things. And I remember specifically, Michael Lee was like, bro, remember Tim? I think it was Tim Jackson, Tim Jones. He was number 2 for Rutgers, little slot receiver.
Oh, what was his name? I know exactly who you're talking about.
Tim something. It was Tim something. He was from Miami. And he was like, he's way better than him. Like by 10. Yeah. And he's like, bro, they're not doing this dude no justice. If you don't like hold him, he gonna beat us to sleep. This is what Michael Lee said.
And by the way, I want to give Michael Lee Harris credit, because that's a guy, had he not had those injuries, I remember seeing him his freshman year. That was the best, most crisp route running I'd ever seen in college.
Lee was a stud. Lee was a stud.
I remember when we got him, I was ecstatic. He and Teddy played together, right?
Yeah, he was the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the advocate. He started that fire, that explosion. Yeah. But I remember, man, play after play after play after play. He did the Heisman pose in the current zone. And I was like, bruh, you know. But more so than anything, like, we couldn't do anything offensively.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the most frustrating thing. Like, a good guy's going to get his due. You know what I mean? You can't stop Tavon Austin. How much you try? We tried. Okay. You know, you couldn't stop Jock Sanders and Noel Devine back then at West Virginia. Yeah. You can't stop, you know, AB in his heyday. You know, you can't stop Julio. Those guys are going to get they do. But, you know, you just can't allow yourself to not get yours as well. And that's what happened with us, you know. And I think he scored twice. And I don't think they had like 21 points or something like that. They didn't have, it wasn't.
It wasn't the game. I think he had 2 touchdowns. He had 7 receptions for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think the final score was like 28-21 or something.
Yeah, it wasn't. You know, like, we couldn't get our due, man. You know, so it was depressing. And then, you know, at the time I had a former, you know, a friend from back home who was from South Florida. She's like, how y'all lose to FIU? And I'm like, we didn't. We lost to TYU. Okay.
Yeah. I've never heard that statement before. Let's see. I found the box score. The final score was 24-17.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean,
so 7 points, which that's what it was. We never got beat, man. No, we didn't, except for Cincinnati once. We didn't get beat by 8 points or more.
So do you remember what their other touchdown was?
It was a special teams touchdown or something like that.
71-yard touchdown return for an interception. 71-yard interception touchdown return.
And it was a turnover of some sort, a fumble turn. Yeah, it was something like that.
And the thing is like, you guys made a good comeback because it was 21-3 in the second quarter. They only scored 3 points in the second half.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to hear the words that Coach Strong was saying to you all in the locker room at halftime because it woke you all up. You all scored. Actually, they didn't score in the fourth quarter. You all scored 14 points in the second half, which still didn't matter because the game didn't end the way you guys wanted it to. But let's talk about the locker room after the game. What was the locker room like? Obviously, it wasn't good, but it's like, hey, we're down, but like we can't be down for too long because we have Kentucky coming next week.
Well, I think it was more like individual disappointments, right? So, like you said, he had 7 receptions, and I think, he may have had 2 or 3 of those that were like short gains. I think they threw him like a screen or a couple screens that were short gains. But the touchdowns and the almost touchdowns are the ones that blew us out, the big ones that were hurt us. And now it's a deal. We can't give up big plays. So, like the one down the middle, the one touchdown down the middle, we're in cover 2. And, the safeties are deep. Mike linebacker's supposed to be running the middle of the field. And he runs right by him, which is expected on a receiver versus a linebacker. But the name of the game is you just run deep and make them put air underneath. Well, he was so fast and he got back there so fast that there was no air. It was a laser, and the safeties didn't have a chance to converge from out wide to tackle the ball. Like he ran down a freaking, a corridor, as they closed in on him, like he was on Warrior Ninja and the thing was closing and he had to escape it. And so I think those plays that broke it open, right? We can't do nothing about an interception return, which is on the quarterback, which added to that deal. I think that was in the second half. Was that in the second half?
It was the very first. It was first score for them in the first quarter.
The first score, okay.
Yeah.
But you can't do nothing about that. So those collectively, I think we played a decent game, but it was like the big plays are the ones really that killed us. Every touchdown they scored was a big play, and usually, you hang your hat like, dang, man, like if I could have did, the one slant was in man coverage against, like you can't check that guy man to man.
Yeah.
So I think it was a unanimous that we played a decent game, and literally like 4 plays, killed us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, dang, man, we let that first down conversion happen, the third down. No, it was like a touchdown every time.
And that's what's frustrating because at the time, you're like all of these national pundits and stuff are like, oh, well, UC Louisville loses to FIU. And then you go to the draft like 2 or, a few years later and you see guys like AB or Khalil Mack or T.Y. Hiltons that are coming from these small schools that are pushing these bigger schools because they got talent. Like these dudes are ballers.
Balling.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, and but that's the name of the game. The name of the game is to win, and if you don't win, you're gonna get bashed for it.
Yeah.
So the next week, you guys travel to UK for the Governor's Cup game that we just talked about earlier. The starting quarterback at that point was Will Stein, and Will Stein gets hurt in the first half, and a freshman by the name of Teddy Bridgewater takes over. First, I want to ask you, what did you guys expect when he was subbed in? Second, in the locker room, was it a foregone conclusion that he would be starting soon anyway?
We knew he'd get his due. We didn't know when. Stein was a dog, and everybody respected Stein. Everybody respected Stein. There wasn't a person on that team that did not. I believe Teddy respected Stein.
Yeah,
Stein was a dog. I seen Stein in a 2-minute drill at practice throw a touchdown pass to Josh Chichester in the pocket. He couldn't see. There's no way he could see. He's 5'2". He could not see. He's in the pocket on the right hash, throws a dime, 30 yards on the corner route to Josh Chichester in practice. I'm like, bro, how did you see that? I don't even know if he remembers it. I remember everything about football. But he was a dog, though. You know what I mean? Even dating back to Craigthorpe when he started 3 or 4 games and won 2 of them, But we knew he'd get his due, But I think, God scripted that one perfectly because I don't know how, not unfortunately for Stein in the injury, but, I don't see, because he was playing well. Stein was playing well at that point. But I don't know. But we knew Teddy would do his thing.
Yeah.
We knew what was going to happen and what he brought to the table when he would come in the game. You know, he's like, you know, Brett Favre threw his first pick six on his first play of the game. You know, it happened with Teddy. So it
happened with Lamar.
Great. You know, happened with
Lamar threw an interception on his first pass. Yeah.
You know, that's what happened to great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's crazy.
You know, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? There's nowhere up from it but up from here.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of, I mean, you're on the sideline. I mean, that's probably what they kind of said to him, like, okay, you got that out of your system. Now, guess what? There's nothing else worse on the field that could happen for you.
Yeah.
You threw it to the other team.
I appreciate more so that it wasn't at home because I think he played. Now, you're talking about a Army All-American guy that, you know, you snuck away from LSU and Miami, and he throws a pick on the first play. Everybody cheers when he walks into the field. And I believe, I could be mistaken, the next time he came, I think he played in the FIU game, maybe. I don't know. Or he played at the end of the Murray State game. I don't know. But he got booed, if I'm not mistaken.
What, by Louisville fans?
I believe so. After the pick.
Wow.
I believe, I could be hearing stuff. I don't know. I think he got booed. Maybe it was a soft boot, but I think he got booed. So I was happy that it wasn't. So now when we come back, you know what I mean? You know, now you get a different response. But then again, it's like, you know, it was good. Y'all was booing me last time.
Well, no, unless they just ran completely, that was definitely his first pass of his career. His first pass of his career.
Oh, no, yeah. That was his first pass.
So maybe if he came in the game, he just handed it off in the other games.
Yeah.
So Teddy comes in the game and leads you guys to victory in Commonwealth Stadium. Like, I was at that game too. Like, that's the only game that I've ever been, the Louisville, Kentucky rivalry game that I've been at, and I will never go back to Commonwealth Stadium in the Louisville, Kentucky game. Those fans are not very nice. And
yeah, they blew a whistle on us and cost us, you know, with my man Stephon Ball, cost us about a 35, 40-yard game. They blew the whistle in the stands, man. They trash.
Yeah. You really do remember everything because I've forgotten about that play. And I remember they showed the person on the screen after
right about the stadium.
Yeah. So Teddy comes in and you guys get that. What was it like to get that first victory over Kentucky? It not just get that victory, but it was at Kentucky.
I think for them it was like business as usual, you know. But like for me, you know, like when we played the year prior and they beat us, like they flattened tires on campus and they won.
Yeah.
You know, like in the dorms and stuff, you know. So for me, you know, it was refreshing, you know, being there in my third year as a redshirt sophomore. I was actually playing at that point. So this was the first year of my eligibility. You know what I mean? After sitting out 2 years. So now I'm playing. I'm rocking out on special teams. I think I had a pancake on punt or something like that on special teams that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was definitely refreshing. And being so close to 2 prior years. Right?
Yeah.
Where we definitely should have and could have won, you know what I mean, those games.
So it's so weird to think back to those first 2 years under Strong because, like, there were so many ups and downs. You would have the FIU loss, then you would have the win at Kentucky. Could you guys as players, though, like, feel the tide turning?
Yeah, because like I said, we never lost a game. We never had a game that was out of reach, I think, until we went to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I think that was our first 2-score loss. And our only 2-score loss in I think those first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So
because you guys go through that year and you all play NC State in the bowl game and you all still lose, but like so the feeling was there, like, okay, we see that once we get more dogs in here to fight with us and we go with this system, like, it's going the right way.
Yeah, and I think it was being more comfortable, right? Because we ran what to us started to become a basic defense, but early on it was multiple. We thought it was exotic, you know, coming from just, you know, we played like a four stack cover 4 basically under Coach Brent Guy, you know, and really every year under Kragthorpe there was another coordinator on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Every year. So that first year of Strong, you bring in the same thing, another coordinator, another on both sides of the ball. So it wasn't until that second year where you have consistency. And then that third year where now as returning guys, we're able to help the younger guys, the freshmen. So that's one thing that, that you struggle with when you have turnover, is the leadership among the team. Great teams are led by the players. Good teams are led by the coaches. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when you come into it and you have a freshman that's coming in and it's like, hey, big bruh, Keith Kelsey was big on that. Like, he would knock on my door every night. Like, fill me up. Fill me up. And I was able to, right? Yeah. Versus a guy where we both are coming into a brand new situation. It's like, I'm learning what you learned.
Yeah.
It doesn't really breed confidence from those younger guys. They can't really lean on you and go to you.
I can't believe I didn't even put a question here about this because I was a Vance Bedford stan. I love that dude. I went to an open practice, and that dude he would do drills with you all sometime just to show. And you can say, hey, man, you picked it wrong. Did you like Vance Bedford as much as I did? Because
I loved him.
I loved Vance Bedford.
He's the reason for me and what I still do athletically, which is coach. Mm-hmm. He's probably the reason. They all are, to be honest. But we would have meetings with our position coach, our coordinator, and then the head coach, right? After every spring, like the end of every semester.
Like, right? Individual?
We did it twice.
Okay.
We did it twice a year. And I remember it was after that season, I believe, because I'm playing now. And he's like, Durant, what you gonna do when you get done with ball? And I had never, I'm thinking he's thinking like after college. So I'm ready to say NFL, right? And he's like after ball. And I'm like, bite my tongue real quick. And I just chewed on it. And the first thing out of my mouth was coach. Never had thought about coaching in my life. Yeah. Ever. Never had. And I said, I'm a coach. And in that moment, he's like, why? He said, you don't want to coach. That way he told me, he said, you don't want to coach. I'm like, you don't want to do this. And I'm like, why don't I? Yeah. And I'm thinking he's going to give me some good advice. He was like, because I know you don't. That was it. And it was like, basically like, you tell me why. And so I had to sit there and ponder that thing, man. And I look back on how my career, like how coaching had affected my career. Like, they challenged us. You know what I mean? I remember our special teams coordinator, he was like, hey, grab the hammer, bust through that glass ceiling. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? And we were walking in from a workout. He was like, you always get up there and just stop. Like, take the hammer, bust through his glass, keep going. You know what I'm saying? You got more, give more, put out more, put out more, put out more. And it started to transform, our team from every coach in every meeting room. We got that, But Coach B, that's my dude. I think probably still to this day, I've called him. He's probably answered, not returned, but answered probably about 80% of my phone calls.
That's awesome. That's a dude that honestly cares. He puts his money where his mouth is when he talks about care for his players.
He cracked little jokes still to this day on Facebook and Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like with us, still to this day.
So that next season, you all lose to NC State, and that next season is the season that a lot of Louisville fans relish on forever. You guys started off the season by beating UK. I remember that game. I was kind of disappointed in that game. Now, I'll tell you why. And this is something that I feel like in Charlie's time here is the only thing that anyone ever really had in his coaching that anyone ever really had a problem with, is they felt like he never really pushed the envelope with the offense, and he kind of took his foot off the pedal too early. Not to let them come back, but I remember that game. We beat Kentucky 32-14, but like you felt like we could have beat them 56-14.
Mm-hmm.
And would you agree with that? Would you disagree with that? Like,
I think that if that's the case, I think that may be. There's only been one time where he really wanted to put it on somebody, and we did, and then we backed off though. That was in 2000, that same year against North Carolina. Right.
He wanted to put it on North Carolina.
Larry Fedora was their head coach.
Yeah.
Larry Fedora was the head coach at Southern Miss when we played him in the Beef Brady's Bowl.
Okay.
Larry Fedora, during the pregame, he said that no Big East team can hang with this offense for 4 quarters. Right? So this is Strong's first year coming from Florida. Yeah. You know, we in the bowl game, year 1. And they came back and they told us that, you know, that he had said that he had just said that in the pregame. Somebody had got word and told Coach Strong that he had just said that. And so, you know, we went out and I think it almost seemed like we were trying to do it in the early parts of the Beef Brady's game.
Yeah.
And then we had to settle down and we came back and we won.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, let's not, you know, try. You know, so it was a lot more, you know, we were just being methodical with our procedures. But I don't know, man. That was the only time that he wanted to do that. But in the UK game, I think that that year, and I'm being politically correct because I usually call them the blue school, you know, but, you know, I'm giving you that exclusive, that I'm being politically correct right now. But again,
you can call him whatever you want. I'm glad to see a player hate him. That's fine. I hate him too, man. There's literally one thing that I cheer for with Kentucky. That's J.J. Weaver. That's the only thing. Yeah, that's because I love that kid.
I actually got 3. So J.J. Weaver, Tate Crooms, and Jared Casey. I coached all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, J.J. is – I love that kid, man. I got him whenever he transferred in. Like, I don't know if I told you this story, but I'm coaching basketball at Moore, and I'm coaching the 6th grade team. And kids come to me, and they're like, Coach, we got a new kid. Can he play? I was like, it's time to come to practice tomorrow. That's fine. Don't know anything about this kid. I start hearing a little bit of rumblings. I was like, hey, you know, I go and talk to the athletic director, and he was like, oh, yeah, you haven't heard about him? And I was like, no. I figured he's just pulling my leg, you know.
Yeah.
That next day, JJ walks into practice. I was like, all right, whose big brother is dropping off their little brother at practice today? And they're like, no, Coach, this is the new kid. This kid is 6'3" in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I was like, so you want to play basketball? You know, just looking up at him. He was like, yeah. I was like, all right. And then, like, our team just – because I had him, and then I don't know if you know who Rayvon Vaden is.
He played. So they all played on my 7-on-7 team.
Yeah, Ray played up a grade with me when he was in 5th grade and played on that team with JJ. And also had Jeremiah Boyd, which is Lavelle Boyd's son. He was on our team as well.
Yeah, that's a good family too, man. Those Vadens, man. We went up to Eastern Michigan where his big brother plays.
Russ is my guy too, man. If you actually look at my Twitter picture, it's a picture of both of them. I was there when Ray signed his letter of intent.
I seen that. So yeah, we went my 7-on-7 team. We traveled, we competed across the country, and we go on college visits. And we went up to a tournament in Michigan, and we stopped through EMU with Coach Creighton. And, you know, he actually helped give us a tour and all that type of stuff. And, you know, man, I used to play JJ at safety in 7-on-7, like in the later downs. I knew he could throw a jump ball on 3rd down. And at receiver, you know, there's a clip of him, man, on our social media pages for our 7-on-7 where he goes up, you know, and just dominates at receiver. Yeah. But no, man, I think that with Strong and as far as running up the score, like he wasn't really concerned about that. You know, it's more so about us. You know, when we would get up, we would play a lot of base defense to get practice on it. You know, we blitz like a son of a gun, but we start. You know, we like, hey, all right, let's play fundamentally sound. And it was more like, let's get better in case we really need to play base defense. And when you play base defense, you know, you kind of get found out a lot easier. Yeah. But if you can't line up and go to, you know, you can't blitz every down. You can't drop 8 coverage every down. You know, you got to rush 4, play with 7 on the back end. So that's what we would do a lot of time when we get up, you know. And they just would make us fight back. And you know, and that's how it was.
So you guys start that season off and just are on fire. And then comes the buzzsaw of Syracuse. Like thinking back to that day up north in the Carrier Dome, what was it that you felt like not only just went wrong, but went wrong enough that they just absolutely manhandled you all?
They gave us some stuff, man, that we didn't see on film. What we did see on film, Coach Strong got us all in the team room, and he had a highlight tape of every top 10 ranked team that got cooked in the Carrier Dome. And the highlight tape was not of football. It was of the fans. And these were clips of their fans just leaning over that wall, beating, you know what I'm saying? He's like, hey, he put the laser on there, circle it, rewind it. He's like, you're going into in hornet's nest.
Yeah. I'm sure he said it differently, but I respect you for not saying exactly what he said.
You know, and we like, man, these dudes, you know, trash, right? and you know, they weren't as good as us.
Yeah.
But they were that day. They put together some offensive stuff that put us in some binds, right? Spread us out, you know, and I think, you know, if George O'Leary is honest, he looked at that tape that next year against us. Yeah. But because they did some similar things, you know what I'm saying, and that Syracuse did the next year against us. They did. But I was suspended for the first half of that game.
What happened? What happened there?
So that was.
If you're okay with talking about it.
Yeah. I was starting to slack off in the classroom, and I wasn't ineligible because, you know, we were semester based, right? And my linebacker coach, Coach BJ, he's now at Michigan, Brian Jean-Marie. You know, I looked at him like a father figure because he was a lot like my mom in his approach. And like, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. You ain't getting too much credit. I'll tell you when you did good, but you here for a reason. So I've coached you up.
Yeah.
Put out.
Yeah, go out and do your job.
I expect these things of you. You're one of the smartest guys on this football team. Put out. You're a leader. Yeah. You know, you're better than that. And you're smart. Handle your books. You're sitting on the bench. So my backup, who actually played a heck of a game in the Russell Bowl, topic we'll discuss later, Champ Lee came in, and, you know, he went through it in the Carrier Dome that day. You know what I mean? Not actually ever getting starter minutes, you know, and I think he made a decision like midweek, so he wasn't getting starting reps in practice.
Yeah.
Until the latter part of practice.
And at that point, if you're traveling to Syracuse, your last practice is Thursday anyway, probably, right?
Yeah, Thursday walkthrough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So he probably didn't get them all week then.
Yeah, so it was Wednesday. He got him Wednesday. He got him Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And he got to start. And it's just a different atmosphere, you know. And I was like the first guy. Like, I had no helmet. I got water. I got towel. Every time he coming off the field, I'm like, hey, you know, here you go, bro. Like, tell me what you seen. Let me help you out. But, you know, it was a tough showing, you know. And he made some mistakes that, you know, I helped him correct or try to. And defensively, you know, we let Alec Lemon, who ran a 4.6 at receiver in the combine, he got drafted. We turned the freaking quarterback into a freaking
Heisman candidate.
What's my golden arm Johnny Unitas trophy? Yeah. Look, man, like, it was embarrassing. You know, both running backs went for 200 yards. You know, but it, you know. And then they played that 3-deep shell on offense, and they were good at it, you know, and we couldn't get anything, you know, and usually in a cover 3, you got a guy, you got the 3-deep parts of the zone, but it's coming from a corner on both sides and a safety, right? Corners start up, they bail out deep. Well, what they played, they had 3 safeties back deep already, 12 yards deep. Then they had 2 corners pressed up in the flats. So it's like the ball ain't going nowhere. And then if their front seven, their linebackers play like animals. And they had our number that day. They had our number.
So let's I mean, me having zero football experience at all, coming off of that defense, I mean, what do you if their linebackers are playing like dogs? I'm guessing you're having to look off one because normally you're looking off a safety to try to get an opening there. It feels like in that you're trying to look off a linebacker to get a slant or a comeback route or just to sit. Like, what do you do to that? Maybe I don't know. Maybe hit your running back a lot on the dump outs. Like, what do you do to beat that?
Well, you got to go, like I said, back to basics. And because you game plan for what you're thinking you're going to get. And when you don't get it, only thing you have is back to the basics. We've worked this. This is our go-to, and a lot of times everything doesn't work well for everything.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So even if we march down the field, we ain't getting beat. They got those three safeties coming up. And then you tighten down, and you're not getting what you thought you'd get in the red zone, and things of that sort. So you just kind of go back to the basics and kind of keep muscling it. But, they had our number, man.
Well, what's crazy, man, is you feel like that experience of a team that would light a fire under you all and you all wouldn't have another lapse. That's what you would feel like. But the next week, in my opinion, you all have an even bigger lapse because you lose on senior night against UConn. What happened in that game there?
Oh man, I think, man, really, they what was that score? Was that like a 16 something?
I'll have to look it up, but
it wasn't a blowout like the Syracuse game.
No.
That was a tighter score. But their front seven, I think like 4 guys out of their front seven got drafted. Right. And our offensive line were like freshmen and sophomores. That wasn't the seasoned 3rd round draft pick, John Miller, Jamon Brown, Jake Smith, all conference. That wasn't that offensive line. All those guys were redshirt freshmen and they were sophomores, you know what I mean, at that time. And I think they abused our guys, to say the least, and took advantage of their age and their inexperience. You got C.O. Moore and all these guys. They played lights out. They had some good DBs too. I think both of their defensive backs went to the NFL. And we were a young team, younger than what we ended up being, graduating, I think 25, 27 seniors.
23 to 20.
Yeah.
And 3 overtimes.
Yeah. So it was a dog fight. We were, but then Teddy gets hurt, you know what I mean, going down, breaking his ankle, it was a long night.
Or he sprained his ankle and broke his wrist.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that next game, man, in my opinion, that next game when you all traveled to Cincinnati, I feel like was the last game. No, Rutgers. Y'all traveled to Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the gutsiest performance I've ever seen a Louisville player have. That guy playing on one ankle with a broken wrist, he balled. I still remember. You talk about remembering football plays. I still remember that dime he threw to Parker in the corner of the end zone on the right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy has a broken wrist? He ran that one play where he escaped the rush and then kind of flipped it to the running back. Oh, my God. Yeah.
So funny thing about that game, a lot of stuff that, you kind of don't see. That was the focus, right, was him on that game. Every time there wasn't a thing on the camera, it was kind of on him.
Yeah.
Right, that game, and rightfully so. But they're like the Terrell Floyd interception, right, the diving interception. There was a lot of plays, man, that, were, like you say, gutsy. That was a team effort.
Yeah.
Total team effort. I think Calvin Pryor made a diving deflection in that game on, I think it was 2nd down to get to a 3rd and long. And he took I replaced, who was it? He was supposed to be in the flats, right? He didn't go to the flats.
He read the play. He read the play well, or
I went to the flats.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't see him there. He was late. So he's coming from safety. He sees me go and replaces me. And as that ball's getting thrown, I'm like, because like, do your job, don't do the next man's job. But we were so in tune. I'm like, man, bro, it's late. I gotta go. Quarterback's looking. Cover him up. And he came back and replaced me with that diving. Like, as he's catching it, he just dives and knocks it out of his hand. You know what I mean? And that's how we work. You know what I mean? During that year and then the year after, there was a play right before the Terrell Floyd interception where they come out. They were a shotgun team with Gary Nova, right? And they never got under center. Every time they got under center, they were in the same formation and they ran the exact same play. They had done it 7 times throughout the entire season. 7 times in a row.
You still remember what the play was?
Yes, I do. I remember it. It was a formation that we called Dallas. It was tight end with a receiver to the right, and it was twins to the field to the left, and they ran like a running back high screen to the field when the ball was on the hash. And I stood. If you go back, you can watch the tape. I stood over the center, and this was our screen called like the John Cena hand in the face. You can't see me. So I turned around to everybody on the team, and I'm like, "Hey, it's a screen." And Marcus Smith like stopped his rush because the screen was going to his side. And he was rushing. They let him go. He stopped his rush and like grabbed the running back, and then the quarterback threw the ball in the dirt. And it was plays like that as a team. Like if somebody said something,
somebody like myself wouldn't. We're like, absolutely. Oh, okay, yeah. Like somebody like myself doesn't know that stuff.
Yeah. And it was the funniest thing, DC Jefferson, which was their tight end, who my best friend, Orion Johnson, the one that played quarterback, went to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. He went to school in Tampa. And he was like the number 1 quarterback. And we were like, man, he sucks. And he was recruited by all these schools, but then he goes to Rutgers to play tight end. He didn't even play quarterback. And so I'm battling this guy the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, that's for my boy O. He didn't even know what I was talking about. I just kept saying it under my breath. And he comes out. He was like, man, why did you change the play? He was like, he called out the screen. He knew what we were doing. Why did you change the play? You know what I mean? But they were locked in on that play because it was always successful because they ran it like once every 2.5 games.
Yeah. So after you guys win that game, the dogfight up there, like what was the expectation that the coaching staff gave you guys? It's like, okay, were they, well, we lost those 2 games. This is probably what was the expectations as far as bowl games go? Like, where did you all think you all were going to go?
We thought we were going to go play an ACC team in the Orange Bowl because that's what had happened previously. You know what I mean? That was kind of the route for, it's an East Coast game. You know what I mean? New Orleans is usually, kind of more West Coast-ish. You see Arkansas go play down there and stuff like that, ACC versus whoever else. And so we weren't expecting, to be down there in New Orleans. We were expecting to go. I think there's a picture of the Cardinal Bird and the Rutgers Knight actually fighting over a bowl of oranges, like during like the deal. So we were expecting to go to the Orange Bowl and play somebody from the East Coast side of the ACC. But we were ready for whatever.
So I gotta admit something here. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I saw that bowl game matchup, I was pissed. And I'll go back to that a little bit later because there's a question I have that kind of references that. But how excited were you all, especially somebody like you, even though you didn't grow up a Florida fan, I'm guessing. Who did you grow up a fan of?
Florida State.
So you grew up hating Florida. But
absolutely.
How excited were you guys to get a chance to play against Florida with a lot of you guys that maybe were overlooked by Florida, which who knows? I mean, if you get recruited by Florida and nobody else, would you have gone there?
I could say no, but I might be lying.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and the devil's advocate, if I was recruited by Florida, I probably could have went elsewhere too. So
Yeah. So, but how excited were you all? How excited were you all? As half the roster pretty much hail from the state of Florida. It's like, all right, well, we get to show out against these guys from where we're from.
Well, it was the next best thing for me growing up a Florida State fan.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Another world type of situation, I'm still playing, against them, and the chance to beat them.
This is who I pictured playing against as a kid. Like, it's all
exactly.
Now I'm getting to do it in a Louisville uniform.
Exactly. Still a dream come true, I was excited to be down there. Dante Fowler Jr., third-round pick, now with the Falcons. He's from St. Petersburg. He's younger than me. His dad coached me in youth league. He's like 3 or 4 years younger than me, though. And so he was a freshman that year when I came in. And getting to see him down there in that deal. And so it was a good deal. But we knew we were going to win that game. It was no doubt about it. We knew we were going to win that game.
So you guys – you guys dominated from the very beginning.
We knew we were going to win.
Yeah.
We had five or 6 weeks to prepare for them, right?
Yeah.
By the time we got to New Orleans, we had watched every Florida tape from that season. Watched it all the scenarios, all of the quizzes they gave us for over a month. When we got down there, we started watching tape of Boise State.
That's interesting because they upset Oklahoma in the
offensive coordinator from Boise State was the offensive coordinator at Florida.
Okay.
So Kellen Moore, who's now worked for the Cowboys, he was the quarterback, left hand. He was the quarterback. Jeff Driscoll was running the exact same offense, but instead of there was a run option for Driscoll because he could run.
Yeah.
So where Kellen Moore might pass it and dump it off on like an RPO, right, to a receiver or a tight end or something like that, Driscoll would pull it and run. But it was the exact same offense. Okay. And once they popped in that tape, it was just like affirmation, like, okay, this coordinator is who he is, right? They're here because of their defense, right? Not the offense. Driscoll's a freshman, highly touted, whatever, we're going to bust him. That was the mindset.
So explain the feeling after that victory, 1. And 2, what do you say to the people, because this is something that I've heard a lot. What do you say to the people who say the only reason Florida lost is because they were disinterested in that game?
Well, it's a clip on YouTube that tell you what I said. Look at that. I looked at the camera, but I don't know. How y'all doing, man, to the haters? That's what it was.
The part that I always bring up is a team that's disinterested is not going to come out in the second half and onside kick the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to come out and try an onside kick.
That right there, I think Kirk Herbstreit said that, and everybody ran with it, And that right there was a picture perfect way of hey, bro, you don't like the media writing a narrative for everybody else. Nobody said they were disinterested. I think who was the coach at the time?
That was the one that actually didn't even do him well there.
Was it Gold? Not Golden. Golden was at Miami. The guy that's at South Carolina.
Yeah, Will Muschamp.
Muschamp.
Yeah.
He even said it like, why would we be disinterested? Like, we're trying to go win this game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they were interested, especially against, you hyped up. Like you said, a lot of guys we played against these guys. Marcus Smith, he was going to Florida. I think he was committed to Florida to go play quarterback. A lot of these guys were recruited by Florida. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys went on official visits and trips and visits with that team and all that type of stuff, man. You want to go play these people.
Yeah. So going into your senior year, did you think that you all could win the BCS title, even though you all were in the American? Like, going into that season after coming off a Sugar Bowl win, is it like, and in your all's locker room, sometimes people are like, oh, let's make the turn and let's make a good bowl game. Or was your all's let's make it to the BCS title game?
We knew we had to be perfect in order to even be in consideration.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking about, like, flashy perfect.
Yeah.
We knew
and that's what I felt like. That was when the talk of Coach Strong really came out, because when you're in the American, you're only getting maybe 1 or 2 chances to really show. Like, that was where the fans were like, really feel like you should be running the score up on some of these teams that you should be running the score up on. And he was more of, like you would say, where he's more like, let's work on stuff in some of this. And that was kind of where the stuff that came, the chatter came, that maybe he didn't do enough on offense when he should have.
Yeah, he used to let Sean Watson rock out. And now obviously he's doing it with his permission as the head coach. Yeah. But, he was like, let's get some guys in. Let's get reps. Who's big on getting guys reps? Let's get reps. Let's make sure when we need to do something, we can do it, right? Because you can't take a game plan into every game, but you can take your base formations, your base plays, your base defenses into every game.
Yeah.
So that was his thing. Like even in scrimmages, Coach Bedford would get mad and he'd say, "All right, we ain't blitzing no more, base defense." And it was like, get off a block, make a tackle. You know what I mean? And on offense, it was block, hit the hole, pass, catch. You know what I'm saying? Catch a slant, catch a curl.
So now I'm going to ask this question, and I know you as a coach and myself would give the same answer, but I want you to take this coach speak out of this. I want you to think back to the lone loss that year, and you talked about the UCF game with George O'Leary. I want to ask you, in my opinion, there was one play that lost you all that game. I want to see if you can think back to the one play that I'm thinking of and see if you feel the exact same way that I do. In your opinion, what decision in that game cost you all the game?
Decision. See, that just shifted. So decision makes me think of coach.
I mean, it could have been anything.
However, I think there's a couple plays that contributed, and it's hopefully I hit one of them. One, the Ryan Hubble fumble.
Okay.
Right. The Preston Brown, Palomalu jump over the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
on third and short when they were just going to fake it and then kick. Obviously, the end of the game touchdown where we cut the guy loose. Right.
You haven't said it yet.
And there are some other plays that I've seen inside of football, inside of knowing what we were doing, where there were some mistakes made. But what would you say?
The accepted holding call that Charlie Strong accepted to give you them 3rd and long instead of declining the penalty and making them, or instead of giving them 2nd and long instead of declining it and giving them 3rd and long, and gave them an extra play. That play right there, I look at my brother and I say, don't accept this penalty, because you're always taught accept penalties. At this point, you have them, you're digging your feet in and you're about to stop them. Now you give them a 3rd and long. It's 3rd and long on a 3rd and goal. But you give them a second chance to get into the end zone. In my opinion, that play lost you all the game because you gave them more chances to get into the end zone. You gave them 3 chances instead of just 2. And they scored on that last play. They didn't even need to be there.
Well, I'll say, in our mind frame, our us defensively, and what we live by, was if they you look at the South Florida game in 2011, you know what I'm saying? In the crunch zone, 4 downs, on an inch, no touchdown. Yeah. Right? It happened a couple different times, and you know what I mean? That was our deal. If they're not in the end zone, they don't need to score. Yeah. Right? So under that principle, right, I believe our mindset defensively as a staff and a team, was they're deeper. You got a bigger chance, for maybe a missed field goal of some sort or whatever. But, there is more room for us to cover up. We can bring some heat. Bortles ain't a dude. He wasn't even a dude that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't even a dude that game. He had a couple good plays in that last drive because of some blown assignments for us. We opened gate, but it was pitch and catch.
Yeah.
But that's one way to look at it. But I say, that's a great area, right? Because we're playing defense. Our job is to stop them. I don't care what the deal is.
Yeah.
But that fumble where we're going into the end zone, ball fumbles through the goal line, touchback, UCF ball.
Yeah.
Right? 3rd and inches where they're going to punt, or 3rd and short, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, they're going to punt, right? They're in minus territory. They don't have a trick play in the game book, right? Preston Brown would jump over the line of scrimmage. You know what I mean? Continue to drive.
Yeah.
And then the coverage where we were in the end of the game, the end zone, we put that D in man-to-man, or that guy was supposed to be on the man who caught the touchdown, and we cut him loose.
Yeah.
So
that game still hurts, man. Yeah. There's a couple plays as a Louisville fan, being a lifelong Louisville fan, there's a few plays that you can think of, in my opinion, like the 2017 that won the Orange Bowl is the first, everyone talks about William Gay jumping off sides. In my opinion, that game was lost by something else, but I don't want to badmouth a player. But that game was lost in the second half of the first game when we lost the best player in the country, Michael Bush. To me,
what's so funny about that Preston Brown jump off sides? I was laughing. I think I did one of these, but it was like, if you could see my face, I was laughing, not because of the situation, but the whole day, because it was a night game.
Yeah.
We were in the hotel watching NFL highlights. And they talking about the greatest players. And Troy Polamalu.
God.
Watching Troy, and he's jumping over the line of scrimmage. They talking about Cam Chancellor jumping over blocking punts. He said, I'm going to do
that. So you guys end the season.
Oh, my God. He's like, I'm going to do that today. He said, I'm going to do that tonight.
And he did it. And
he did it.
Yeah. So you guys end the season with one loss. Do you guys feel like you guys were over penalized for that one loss to a team that only ended up losing one game?
But that's how it goes. That's how we knew. We went not talking about it. Like, we covered up the board. We had a board, and we covered up the board. We just took off each game at a time, right? Looking at one game at a time. That was really it. Next game, one game. But we knew we had to go dominate, right?
Yeah.
Even after that, we handle Florida. We don't lose too many key players. Like, we lose Andrell Smith. We lose Nate Nord. We lose some guys defensively, but we return like 17 starters, right?
Yeah.
And you don't lose. Your running back. Sonoris Perry comes back healthy. Jeremy Wright. You know what I mean? I think he ended up leaving, but you get Dominique Brown. But then you add a young Brandon Ratcliffe. You add Corbin Lamb, a young Corbin Lamb. Then you add the Michael Dyer. You got 5 guys capable, right? So you don't lose much. Offensively, the receiving core was there. Defensively, everybody was there. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so coaching staff retained, right? Our kicker is one of the most points scored in Louisville history, John Wallace.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't lose much, man, and then you say, all right, we're going to go ahead and put y'all at number 20.
Yeah.
And then for so long, I think LSU jumped us one week. We were stuck at 8-9. You know what I mean? After handling people. We go 72-0 against FIU in the payback game. In redemption. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, and obviously looking at, in retrospect, you watch UCF go play Baylor and handle them in the Fiesta Bowl. In retrospect, you got, UCF going and kicking the mess out of Baylor, right?
Yeah.
And in the Fiesta Bowl,
yeah.
Right? And even after that, they were telling us that had we went undefeated, we would probably play Alabama in the Sugar Bowl again. And I think the national championship that year was in the Rose Bowl, maybe, between Ohio State. No, Florida State won that year, I think.
Is that when they beat Auburn?
Florida State and Auburn, I think. that year.
Let's see.
In 2014. No, 20. Yeah, it would have been
2013, 14.
14, yeah. So it would have been January of 2014 would have been the national championship. I think that was Jameis the game, if I'm not mistaken. Because the Ohio State won the next year when the playoffs started.
Yeah.
That was the last year of the BCS. Yeah. Jameis in the game with Big Benjamin.
Yeah, because they also – who was the well, I guess the running back left the year before that went and played for the Falcons.
Oh, Devontae Freeman?
Yeah.
Yeah, and James Water Jr. came back. But yeah, you look at how they go handle Baylor. It's like, oh, I guess UCF really was good. Then you go and you get Blake Bortles, even though he sucked to go third overall in the draft. It's like, oh, I guess we could have gave him maybe we shouldn't have penalized Louisville that much. You know what I mean? And you seen where LSU and Alabama go play the national championship. You see where Georgia goes to the SEC championship, and then Alabama still goes to like a BCS bowl or whatever the case may be. Like, you see those things from the SEC school and things like that. Like, we were number one in the country in defense.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. You get what I mean? Like, now I've watched a lot of our games, and 5 is, we used to call him the doctor. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we were good, but we could have been a lot better, and he corrected a lot of our wrongs with that arm of his.
So you all called him the doctor because he was so surgical.
Surgical.
Yes. So a question I put up, and I would understand if you're biased because you played with him. Who do you think was the better quarterback when they were here, him or Lamar?
I am biased. But statistically, it was Lamar.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Lamar's leadership. He's a fiery leader from what I've seen, I've heard. Teddy led a little different, though. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't –
Quiet confidence almost, it seemed like.
He was vocal enough.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, we'd be in practice, and if a lineman would jump off sides, he'd, like, lean up and just tap him in the helmet, like, tighten up. You know what I mean? or if it was a play that got blown dead and the center actually happened to snap the ball, he'd, like, toss the ball at whoever jumped offside in the back of the helmet. You know what I'm saying? And, like, that was, like, it. Little gestures like that, But, man, I would say Teddy, and the reason is because I believe with my football eyes that he had more control of the offense than Lamar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had more control over the offense.
So the last game that year, you all go and I'm guessing for you it was great because you dominated Miami, and I'm sure it's a team you grew up disliking. But I want to take a different. I want you to take me through the feelings of taking that jersey off for the last time, because you're coming from not being recruited to a team that gave you a chance, to kind of being dumpy, and then it coming up and you all not making it to where you wanted to, but still having a really good success story. You don't lose in one game and then beating Miami. Like, it's really kind of come full circle because you're kind of back home and beating Miami.
So we're in Orlando, an hour and 40 minutes from St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And this one is a bittersweet one for me because the jersey I took off for the last time was the practice jersey. I didn't play in the Russell game. And I chose, and being immature at that time, to miss curfew because, I'm back home, and got dismissed from the team in my last senior day game, right? They were a pro-style offense, which switching to the American, bringing in Houston, you're bringing in teams like, Temple and Memphis and all these other teams that are up-tempo, running gun. You lose your pro-style Syracuse. You lose your pro-style-ish Pittsburgh, going to the ACC. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So me being a linebacker in a base package or a blitz package, it takes me off the field and some of our other linemen and stuff to bring in defensive backs to cover these receivers, right? So for me, it was really like an end cap. Like I led for half of the season up until conference play or something. No, even past conference play. For about 70% of the season, that junior season, Sugar Bowl season, I led the team in TFLs. Now, obviously, the senior year, the sack daddy, Marcus Smith, led our team in TFLs.
Yeah.
But that, largely we went to much more passing teams with bringing in the AA, the American,
Yeah.
the AAC. And that took me off the field a lot more. And so to be back home in that against a pro-style offense, with the tight end that ended up getting drafted, I think to the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. A quarterback, who ended up playing in the NFL, Duke Johnson, I think he was hurt that game, but, that was a large part of their year that their offense that season was running the ball out of a pro-style offense, passing the ball out of a pro-style offense, which left me on the field. It was bittersweet, man, to take that. But, my guy and one of my good friends since then, Champ Lee, had a hell of a game replacing me, you know what I mean, in his final debut, one of the better games of his season in his career. And then we obviously get the win convincingly. My mom actually made me go to the game.
So that was what I was about to ask you. Where did you watch the game?
I wasn't going to go. And
I want you to, and you can be honest or you can lie about it because this is your story. Did you agree with him kicking you off the team, or are you pissed that he did it at the time?
I was pissed, and I didn't. I'm never going to agree with it.
Yeah.
But my uncle told me one time when I got home, he said, "Man, you messed me up." I said, "What do you mean I messed you up?" He said, "I was supposed to be going to 2 bowl games in a row." And so that pissed me off. I'm like, how I mess you up?
Because you took my ticket.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and he said, and I was like, "No, man, he messed you up." He said, "He ain't do nothing. That's your fault." And so I'm like, "No, man, it was other people involved, and that missed curfew and all this type of stuff." And he's like, "Were you in your bed at the time you were supposed to be in your bed?" I said, "No." He said, "It is your fault." You know what I'm saying? And that was I always told people if I was able to write a book, right? It would be called, "It is your fault" or "It is my fault," either or. But if it is your fault, but it'd be a mirror on the cover of the book, right? And because a lot of stuff we're in control of from the origin of what becomes the situation. Somewhere when you trace back to the origin, you had a chance to stop, redirect, or do something differently than what you did before that snowball build up. And had I been in my bed, regardless of what everybody else had done, I would have been there.
So how long before the game was? Is this the night before the game?
No, this was like 4 days before the game.
Man.
And she's like, "We're going to go to this game." I said, "We're not going to this game." She said, "We're going to go to this game." I said, "Y'all can go. Y'all got the tickets." She said, "No, you going to go to this game." And I'm like, "I'm not going to this game."
So what happened when the game ends? Like, did you celebrate with the team or anything?
So I go to the game, and I'm involved in the pregame. I got these shades on. And, people recognize me, and I go to the card march. And I'm crying. I got these shades on, I'm crying. And team comes up. First person that comes up to me is Teddy. And and he hugged me, and everybody like, you know, and they thought it was his mom, but then they seen that it wasn't, obviously.
Yeah.
And so then everybody starts to see, and then everybody on the team like makes a line in Carter, it's like off to the side, and it's like everybody hugging the whole team as they going by. So now everybody in Carter is like, the hell is going on, you know? And so then they see me, and people are like, you know, some people talking to me and everything, because it was on like it was like on all the things, like the reports and stuff about, you know, game, you know, they had interviewed Coach Strong about it, all that type of stuff. And so I go to the game, and I'm in the seats, and I walk down to like right behind the bench, you know, and I'm sitting like right behind the bench, and I ain't say nothing, you know, and then that play get made, and I stand up, and everybody sit down, and I'm like still standing up, and I forget who was the first person to look behind. I think it might have been Preston Brown, and he just happened to look behind and see me, and like jumps over the bench, comes over, you know what I'm saying, like high five me, do all this type of stuff, and everybody started coming over, you know. So it was like, it was bittersweet, man, the respect that I got, you know, from my teammates at that point, you know what I mean. And like actually the security was like, sir, you can't stand up here. And then I'm like, all right, you know. So then I was about to leave, and Preston came, and then all of the team started coming high-five me in the stands, and the security guy was like, do you play for them? And I was like, not no more, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm supposed to be. And so he was like, all right, man, just hang out right here. And then after the game, I jumped down onto the field. He ain't say nothing. Security guard let me jump down onto the field. You know what I mean? And it was all love, man. You know what I'm saying?
So Coach Strong didn't stop you from joining the team in that part?
No, I don't think I even ran into him. You know, he's doing press conference, bowl game stuff, and all that type of stuff. Everybody was scattered up, running around the field, all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? But it was all love, though, man, from my teammates. You know, I've talked to Coach Strong since then. You know, I've talked to my coaches since then. You know what I mean? And a lot of different things. So, you know.
So let's talk about what you did after your career is over. So, your career is over. What does George Durant get into?
Man, George Durant gets you know, waits for the pro day. I tear my groin on pro day, running my first 40-yard dash. Right, tear the groin. I do some CFL stuff. That doesn't work out. My first son is born. I'm like, man, let's get a job. Right. Still waiting on the call. I actually did receive some calls after my son was born that I turned down because they weren't promising, you know. And I'm like, man, you know, I got to put some food on my little boy plate. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I rode that wave, and I don't regret the decision at all. And so that first year I did nothing football related. I worked, and then I was working for a logistics and moving company that I later became the operations manager of in like 2 years, right? And I'm like, man, you know, this can't be it. You know, so I started coaching, and I felt that passion, and so then I started to get into teaching. So I started subbing, started working on my degree to get in teaching, and I'm like, man, the teaching game is too political for me to be an impact how I know I can. It's very political nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
A kid say you looked at him the wrong way, and now you fired as a teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, now there is some stuff going on that's legitimate, but it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. And so I got out of that shortly after, and then I broke my leg, you know, in a bad car accident, went back home. I actually had the privilege, you know, of going to South Florida where Coach Strong was down there, and he was like, hey, man, you can use this facility anytime you need to, you know, to finish up your rehab. I heard about it. One of our other players had actually talked to him, former players that had talked to him, and told him, like, hey, man, like, Durant got a bad car accident, man, like, you know. And so it was good for him, you know, he welcomed me back, you know, in that respect. Actually, I talked to him when he actually, when he was at Texas, a little bit after the Russell Bowl, you know, and it was all it was all good. And after that, you know, my uncle had said everything stuck with me, you know, so, you know, there wasn't no bad intentions there, you know what I mean, after I matured, you know, in the situation. But since then, man, coaching, mentoring, I spoke with my
Where'd you coach at?
I coached at Ballard my first 3 years, where Marshawn Ford, I coached him at Ballard. who's starring for the Louisville Cardinals now. Josh Minkins, I coached him at Ballard, who's also just signed to.
I remember this when I start to show my age. I remember his dad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember his dad on the walls in the stadium.
I remember his dad on the field. That's where I'm showing my age a little bit. That dude could ball, man.
So since then, man, I coached him. I've coached a couple of the guys that are playing for Louisville. Some of them have walked on that are here locally. Like I said, we mentioned JJ. I coached JJ, played on my 707 team. Jared Casey played at Ballard when I was there. I also coached at Butler. I coached at Butler where Jordan Watkins,
yeah.
He's there at Louisville, and on the Blue School you got Tate Crooms and Isaiah Cummings, who went to Mill, who I coached on my 707 team as well.
I'm so upset about missing out on him too, man. Yeah,
so I and this time I've seen a lot of good kids, man. Go Wandale Robinson, that's at Nebraska, played on my 707 team as a sophomore.
Did you lose a game? I mean, let's be honest. Did you lose a game? I mean, you literally are naming like all the best. The only great player from the city of Louisville in that time frame you haven't named was, or I guess you didn't name Aiden Robbins either, but you didn't name Rondale Moore. But it seems like you named everybody else.
Moore was supposed to play with us, but he was the starting point guard. This is when he was at New Albany.
Yeah,
sophomore.
I'm not going to lie to you, not to interrupt you. I kind of get tired of hearing Trinity get credit for Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
The people that really know – he played with Romeo Langford on that state championship team. And then they go and recruit him and get him over there. Him and the other kid that went to Stanford.
From there, Stephen Herron.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was supposed to play with us that year as a sophomore, but they made that deep run in the winning state championship. And after that he goes and he kind of cuts off everything, just starts just dialing in, on being just a just a dominant football player.
Yeah.
At that point. But since then, man, I've done a lot of coaching, coached some camps and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm 707. Now, we actually went to nationals last year. I think we could go nationals with those guys. We went to nationals 2 times in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So down at IMG in the national tournament down there. So we trying to do something good, man. Something good with these kids in Kentucky, man. So they can play some ball.
So Marshawn, could you tell from the beginning that he was a next level talent, or like what was it?
So being in his position, right? I told him a lot of small schools. The biggest school I think was Morehead State, and I said, man, you can go pay to play at Morehead State, or you can go pay to play at Louisville or Kentucky. Like I tell my guys, if you're gonna go pay to play, go pay to play at the best possible school you can. Learn how to be a guy, right?
Yeah.
Learn how to be a guy at a big time. Learn how to take care of your body. Learn how to eat right? Learn how to lift right. Learn how to hit your books the right way. And hopefully you can get on the field in that time span. And if so, you can transfer. You look at my little bro, he was actually right next to me in the locker room from here, went to Ballard, Dantes Bird.
Yeah.
Right? Started at Louisville, walked on, did exactly that, learned how to be a big-time guy, and he left and went to Tennessee Tech, and now he's their all-time leading receiver.
And now he has a pretty big training thing now, right?
Had a chance to play in the NFL with the Falcons for a little bit, got shopped around, did some stuff in the XFL, and he's now training. He has a facility that he's partnered with the guy here in Louisville doing some good stuff. But he's still active on the free agency. He still works out really hard, and things of that nature. I think he had initially signed with the CFL, but they weren't playing. But yeah, so right now, man, I call this community home. And I'm trying to help it grow as well. It's a lot of guys that are still doing what got me up here. So I don't feel the necessity necessarily to be back home.
Yeah.
There's still guys that are doing exactly what I'm doing. That's how I got here. All the names that I mentioned that went pro, that's how they got here. Or not solely, but, a big part of how they got back here. And so, it's a lot of guys, this soil is untapped. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of rich resources, that are here, homegrown, but they don't know how to cultivate it.
Yeah.
The environment doesn't know how to cultivate it. That's why you don't see the repeat successes. We named all those guys, right? The Rondos, the D-Los, the the Keelan Martins, the Gooden, you know, but there's not a lot of the repeat of it. Yeah, Rondo does his camp, you know, and that's kudos to him and good stuff like that. But, you know, these guys where I'm from, you know, you see these guys in the community. When we would come, when it'd be summer break, we knew that Louis Murphy was bringing 3 guys from the University of Florida with him to work out. We knew, you know, not Rashad Perryman. What was my man name? Receiver that played at UCF. I think it was Perryman.
Yeah,
my man Jamar Newsom, you know, was bringing that guy. You know what I mean? These guys bringing guys from Maryland. Darius Hayward Bay, before he was the first-round draft pick, was in St. Petersburg working out with me when I was in 10th grade. Because our quarterback went to Maryland. He like, hey man, listen, come home with me and work out. We get it in. Yeah. So you see that, and that's not just in my community, all over the place, you know, where I'm from in the state of Florida. And you don't see a lot of that, you know. I haven't, you know, here, and hopefully we can get that deal going, man, to where you see that repeat give back, you know, and start to help this deal blossom.
So you mentioned your car accident. Do you remember what happened?
Vaguely in spots. I remember I was actually on the way to a coaching clinic at UofL. I had just talked to Brian Brown, the defensive coordinator, and he called me on like a semi-interview. One of the coaches at Appalachian State that was here at Louisville was down there, and he's like, hey, y'all going to Louisville. You know, this guy, he played for it, smart as hell, he's coaching up there, young dude, give him a call. So this 502 number calls me, you know, he's like, hey, what's up, coach? This is Coach Brown, you know, new defense coordinator at Louisville. I'm like, oh, shit, what's good?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's good? And so we talked. It was like in December. And then fast forward, they're here now. And I had messaged them a couple of times. He's like, yeah, we got these coaching clinics. Come check one out. You know, and I'm like, boom. I had flirted with coaching collegiately. I flirted about like going to Texas. I was invited down there. Flirted about going to South Florida. You know, one of our assistants left Texas with Strong, went to Troy. You know, I went down there. You know what I mean? Spent some time with Troy before Neil Brown went to West Virginia. You know, I was a big Neil Brown advocate for coming to Louisville. You know what I mean? Initially too, and I was headed down Dixie Highway to this coaching clinic, and I had just got off the phone, and I was hanging the phone up, and I remember seeing like a yellow light, like, okay, I got this one. And as I hung the phone up, like putting it down, you know, just watching like, hey, I'm about to put this like on my seat or on the center console or whatever. I wasn't texting anything. Like a split second went by, and like I'm getting nailed. And I don't know if I seen the back part of the yellow light and I was too far because I was deep in my conversation, but I wasn't 100% focused. And I get hit, passenger side. My body slams against the middle console. My wallet was in my right pocket, snapped my femur in half. And I'm down. You know, the car rolls over. And somehow the car got in reverse. I opened the door. I try to get out the car, and I can't move my leg, so my leg's like dead in the car. And my right leg hits the gas pedal, and the car goes in reverse but the rest of my body's hanging out of the car. And I'm like in the middle of the road, Dixie Highway, you know, and I laid there. Dude comes over. He kind of helping me, you know what I'm saying? Stay
the guy that hit you?
No. He was good.
Wow.
I was in a little Honda Accord at the time, man. My little runaround car in the little Honda Accord. You know, he was in this big old 2500 Silverado. You know what I'm saying? And he was good. You know, I'm like, where's the guy at? I'm like, where's the guy? Where's he at? Where's he at? Where's he at? Is he good? Is he good? And he do point to me in my blurry vision of me screaming and crying. I seen him. You know, and he was like, that's the guy right there with the hat on. He's walking around. He's good, man. I'm just trying to take care of you, you know. And crazy story, the dude ended up finding me and FaceTimed me because he was in a prayer group with a guy I worked with 3 years ago.
The guy that hit you did this?
No, the guy that was helping me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was at this men's Bible study telling this story, and he was like, describe the guy again. He's like, I think I know him. He said, what's his last name? He said, yeah, I used to work with him. And he was like, really? And so they FaceTimed me when I was in the hospital. Yeah, it was pretty dope. But yeah, it was an experience, man. A lot. I had to learn how to walk. Real humbling, man. You know what I'm saying? Real thankful, for the experience of the aftermath of it. I don't want to go through it again, but yeah. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about me, man. I learned a lot about, soul searching, praying, man. You know what I'm saying? Getting close to God. You know what I'm saying? Really realizing what I got going and what I can have going. You know what I mean? That's where.
And also how quickly it could be taken away from you.
Since then, man, like, how you get a car and you see the same car all the time? It's been like that for me with accidents. Like, in the news, I feel like I see every fatal accident now, where these car crashes are fatal. You know what I mean? Now, luckily, you know what I'm saying, my two boys at the time, were in the car. You know what I'm saying? They were with their grandma at the time, and it was all good. So, like, it's crazy.
So let's touch on it a little bit. What was it like going back to South Florida and, Coach Strong letting you rehab there? Because, I mean, you said you had already talked to, like, what was it? Did you expect him to welcome you in like that and let you work out there?
I kind of did. Like, he's that type of guy, man. Like, I know, I'm sure he's got certain regrets about, how he left and things of that sort. But, personally, I don't think it's a personal decision. He made a decision that he felt, like, I'm sure it was hard for him, and he maybe he didn't know how to express it. You know what I mean? In a certain way. Like, everybody's human, got feelings. I can't speak for him in that regard. Maybe he didn't know how to express it at that time when he left. But I know that, like, for instance, when Rondo broke his knee towards ACL, he rehabbed at our facility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, like, he was that guy, like, man, you guys, like, he called everybody from my freshman year that graduated that didn't get their degree and told them to come get their degree back, to come graduate and get their degree. That their scholarship for their tuition, because they signed, was still their one semester left, or their 2 classes left. He's like, bro, you got 2 classes. Come get this degree. So I expected him to do that. So not that he owed me, but just as a guy that I knew and know, I expected it to happen. And the guys that were still on staff with him from Louisville through Texas to South Florida, I expected it.
Are you seeing the news? Trevor Lawrence has tested positive for COVID.
Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah, so he will miss this weekend. So now you're back in Louisville, you rehabbed and everything. What have you been doing since your return? What does the future hold for you?
For me, man, servant leadership, man. I just actually launched my my marketing company this year, Durant Digital Marketing and Media. So I'm working on Durant Digital Marketing and Media.
So, like, you would be able to help out guys like myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my thing is the aim for let me say this first. I don't think you need to. I don't know where you're getting this research from. I don't know if you need too much help. You like the FBI. You like the CIA. Like, I used to watch Quantico, the FBI show. You watch Quantico on ABC?
I don't, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Hey, you work, or at least you're an actor or something. I don't know. But
So here's the thing. I don't like to toot my own horn very often, because I feel like when you do that, it kind of takes away from your hunger and what you want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I work hard at this, man. Like, I have my ways of doing things, and I don't know. I feel like it's something that I've always. It's funny because isn't it weird how people on the outside that really know you tell you things that you should be doing, but you're like, I don't want to. I don't want. I've been told I should be doing something like this my entire life, and then almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in like a month.
Yeah,
I hit up my buddy, man. Was just like, hey, I want to start this podcast finally. Will you be on my first episode? And he was like, sure. I don't know why you want me, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that was one of the things for me, man. Not being confident, like in ways like what you say, in abilities, myself, whatever. That was one of the things I struggled with coaching.
Yeah.
For 4 years, right? I struggled with coaching collegiately. Do I really want to do it, right? And what I realized that I wanted to coach, but collegially wasn't a necessity because I wanted to help the kids get out of sticky situations that like I was in, and I didn't really realize that till after my accident when I actually finally put it to rest. You know what I'm saying? Like literally like, oh, I'm done. I was on the way. God said I was on the way to UofL.
Yeah.
On the way. Talking with Brian Brown, for a couple different times, on the way to this coaching clinic, like, hey, I know you know who I am, at least by name, because you called me.
Yeah.
I'm here in Louisville. I can work a job, and I can volunteer for free. And I know by the end of this thing, you're going to see some work. Because I know what I bring to the table.
Absolutely. You
know what I'm saying? And that's what my mindset is. But God's like, no, bro, you really don't want to do that anyway. You just don't know it yet. You know what I'm saying? But that's my desire in coaching is to help get these kids out of these environments that I grew up in. And even if you're not in an environment that I grew up in, in the south side of St. Pete, in the west end of Louisville, or any other hood, in America, you know what I'm saying? You may be a first generational potential Division I scholarship athlete that your parents don't know about the clearinghouse. They don't know about core GPAs and what it takes. They don't know about which camps to go to and various things like that, to help you get out there, how to organize your highlight tape. All that stuff matters. Yeah. It all matters, So for me, that's the name of the game. I work with an organization that we just founded, a group of coaches, it's a necessity. It's called the Kentuckiana Alliance for Athletes. And the whole drive is to do that, is to help educate people on how to get athletes to the next level. You know what I mean? It's more than one way to do that too. Like the other part, I mentioned my 707 program. We travel across the country, getting these Kentuckiana area kids and other kids across the state in different environments to go compete against, high-level talent. One of my corners that's at University of Tennessee, he's from Caldwell County down by Paducah. Mm-hmm. His freshman year, we go to the National Championship Tournament at IMG in Bradenton. We get blasted by a team called Pro Impact. Their quarterback was Max Smith at Alabama.
Yeah. Sometimes you just outdogged, man. Sometimes they just got
you get what I'm saying? But he came back. In the next year, in the next 2 years, he led the state of Kentucky in interceptions. You know what I mean? Because of being against, he's down in a little small Paducah area. You don't see that every day. You know what I mean? You don't see that type of caliber of talent every day. But you either learn, like I say, to put up or shut up or work harder.
Yeah, so I got one more question before we get into the fun part, but this is a pretty serious question with the current climate, with a lot of things that are going on. You play with a lot of people in your time at Louisville. You play with guys with the likes of Calvin Pryor, Teddy Bridgewater, Michael Dyer, a lot of guys that you mentioned. One guy that some people may not realize that you played with is now the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky. And you made a post the other day about the situation that is currently plagued the city of Louisville. And honestly, it's just an underlying thing for what's going on in this country that's a problem. And you made a post about that situation. And to me, it's a person I feel like should be able to speak on it firsthand because you know the guy. I want So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about Daniel Cameron, the AG of the state of Kentucky. And George played with him. Some of you may not know, he played football for the University of Louisville. And I want, first off, kind of give us a summary of what you said. You don't have to, read the entire thing, but kind of give us a summary of what you said and explain your feelings and sentiments about, explain what made you post that.
First, I played with I didn't play with him. He was just leaving when I got there, right? But just like, any other guy, those guys left an impact on other guys. The Moby Okoye's left for deep, and the Will Gays, they talked about those guys all the time. So in the post, Daniel Covington, who has passed away, was one of those guys for me. Big brother, on the team. He was a senior my freshman year. And in the post, I talked about how when they would go to the away games, I would, sometimes me and a couple other guys would go over his house and clean his dog cages. He had a couple dogs, a couple pit bulls, and we cleaned the dog cages because he was gone for the weekend on these away trips. And, he was a stand-up guy.
And this is Daniel Cameron's house?
No, this is Daniel Covington.
Daniel Covington, okay.
This is Daniel Covington. And Daniel Covington, the relationship between those two, they came in, if I'm not mistaken, in the same recruiting class as freshmen. They played the same position. They have the exact same name.
Yeah.
And Daniel Covington, same initials, almost as Covington Cameron. I could see a lot of similarities as to, whether they were close on the team or not. I don't know exactly, but I can just imagine. I know how close I was with guys that were in my position group, and we weren't even as similar, as those two are on paper, right? And in the post, there's a picture where there's a kid that has on Daniel Covington's jersey that I took a picture with in the FIU, after that FIU victory, that blowout game we mentioned earlier, which was a good get-back game. Everything was coming together for us that year. And I instantly stopped in the locker room when I seen this kid, and I had to get a picture of him. This kid was from the Indian summer camp where the kids, I believe that's where this particular group of kids was from, but I know this kid had cancer. And the jersey that we would do, we go to the Indian summer camp every summer and do volunteer work, and we loved it, man. It wasn't just something to put on the charts, man. We really enjoyed going there every summer, playing, doing archery, doing games, obstacle courses. They asking us for advice. We tell them stay strong. We're strong. We live every day. They're fighting, cancer as a kid, and this kid was in his locker room with his jersey, man, and it touched me a certain type of way. And what propelled me to make the post was because Daniel Covington, D Cov, he was killed, not by police, but by actually a former UofL baseball player. He was indeed white, and a lot of people, there's a lot of he say, she say about what had happened. But the person that told the first story was, the accused, the guy that shot him and killed him. He told the first story to the police officers. Now, there was actually a guy with D Cub at the time, and they kind of got his stuff later, right? And knowing who D Cub was and the type of person he was, what was kind of portrayed, to put it to rest, it didn't fit. It didn't, it wasn't that type of deal. It wasn't that type of party. Here he is, literally just got done playing, working out to get a spot in the NFL, CFL, whatever it was. Big time advocate, for just doing right, peaceful, all that type of stuff. And then another reason why I was so close to him, another guy, former walk-on turned starter and captain. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me to see how Daniel Cameron handled it, and what struck a chord was when I guess they allowed the grand jurors to speak about what he had given to them and what he had advised of them. It wasn't what he was saying he had done and what he advised and what he was bringing to the table. So to to basically, in their perspective, lie to the public about what he had told them behind closed doors. You know, like, you know, you've been here before in your life almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where a guy you come close to have been gunned down, unarmed, you know, and things that I know it had to have hit him some type of way. How could it not? You know what I mean? You know, you naked with this dude in the locker room taking a shower. You in your meeting room. You probably share a dorm room for him, play the video game. You on trips with him. You grinding with him. You know what I mean? He wasn't just on the team. He was a position mate, right? You in the same workout group. You in the same meeting room. Your locker is within 5 feet, you know, of each other. You know what I mean? You're working on the same playbook. You're in the same recruiting class, so you guys are fighting the same uphill battles as incoming freshmen, right? And so, you know, I don't know if he was a scholarship athlete, but if he wasn't and he was a walk-on, that's I know you guys were probably even that much more closer, because back then it was walk-ons versus the world, because now they have where the walk-ons can get the same foods and other things but then it was after practice, you couldn't eat at the training table, you had to go find something else. So if he wasn't a scholarship athlete, I can imagine them being excluded together. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what all of it was about, you know, and it just was, man, it was filling up. And I usually don't make them type of posts, man, but it was filling up, you know, and I just had to I seen that some people did appreciate, you know, that really wasn't what it was for. I really don't take the social media and things of that sort. But, you know, D Cub ain't here for me to be like, dang, bro, no, hey, go holler at bro. You know what I'm saying? Or nothing like that. I don't know anybody that is still directly related and with him and doing things of that sort. So it was just a little truth, man, that I felt, you know, I had to get off my chest.
Yeah. I mean, it's deep. I mean, because, I mean, I saw the post and I knew a little bit of it, but, I mean, to hear it kind of broken down like that, I don't know. Yeah. I hate the situation because, you know, I'm born and raised in this area, and it's making the city that I love look terrible because of you're letting things go on. And then you want to point fingers at people protesting and point out how that's wrong when you don't want to point a finger at what's wrong in the first place. The things that just continue to happen.
Yeah, and I actually seen the interview that Michael Strahan did with one of the officers. I forget which one it was.
John Mattingly.
But you know, with all that stuff just wrapped in, you know, and even with him, you know, he kind of sat back and almost didn't kind of go. Didn't want to go there, but he kind of stayed. If you remember, you know, bringing up the Floyd situation, and he kind of hung there like, oh, whoa. And the whole situation, you know, it's a very unfortunate situation. But I think that, especially not that, because you potentially have a feeling of what you felt, you know, with D Cuff, you know, potentially. That you make a different call or a different decision, but his entire explanation was about upholding the law. You know, that was what the defense was for him, was, you know, we're going to enforce the law and uphold the law and not speculate and various things like that. You know, and I'm gonna make this one, and I don't know if you got anything else about it, but I'm gonna make this one deal. You know, I said this to a couple of my coworkers, like, where in America or in the world, right, can you cost your employer $12 million and keep your job? Right, wrong, or indifferent. Yeah. Right. You know, I work for a factory and we produce HVAC units. You know, if the metal isn't proper and or I assembled the deal wrong and they install it and it busts and it, you know, those units are a couple $100,000 at the most. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure I'm fired.
Yeah. You
know what I mean?
And what's crazy, man, is I never really even thought about the monetary value on that.
I'm saying just that, you know, and even, you know, you talking about upholding stuff, you know, this thing is in mayhem. If there's a person at your job that is causing disruption among everyone at the job.
Yeah.
Just the situation as a whole is causing disruption across the entire county and country, right? You don't, hey man, listen, we appreciate it. Let's go ahead and remove you from the situation. You know, you're just causing us too much grief. You've cost us.
I mean, well, they did fire the one. They did fire the one officer. Yeah. But
and that's just from a practical standpoint, though. I'm not even gonna get into the other stuff. Yeah. That's just practically thinking. You done cost me money, right? Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
now you, if you want to say you innocent, bro, cool. Whatever. Yeah. It is what it is.
I mean, I think the most telling part of the entire situation, and I say we leave it at this one. The most telling part of this entire situation is that guy got wanton endangerment, and the only bullets he got wanton endangerment for were the bullets that went to the other apartments. It wasn't even the ones that hit her. That, to me, told me everything that you all wanted to do. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, we could speak on this for hours. Yeah. We could, but
that's why you know, the post, man, it was just filling up on me, man. And I know there were some people that may not have that may have known him, may not have known him, you know what I mean? But it was a perspective that I had that others didn't, you know, and you know, it was filling up, man.
Yeah,
you know, it was filling up.
So now we're gonna 180 the mood. Now we're gonna take it to a fun part of this other episode. We're gonna take you to the Mike and Cheese rapid fire questions. And you may ask, what's Mike and Cheese? Mike and Cheese is my final sponsor. It is the best macaroni and cheese in town. They do free delivery to Louisville and Southern Indiana. It's a $15 minimum. Their trays start at $10. Call them at 502-548-6845. Make sure you try the beef pizza mac and tell them that I sent you, because I'm telling you, he made a podcast pizza mac and cheese just for me. And it's bonkers how good it is, because you would think, oh, it's just mac and cheese. It's not just mac and cheese. It's Mike and Cheese.
I gotta go get some Mike and Cheese.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's so funny? Hey, in Florida, you know, we pronounce, and it's not all throughout Florida, but we pronounce a lot of the ACK words as IKE, right? So y'all might you know, be welcome down there with that Mike and Cheese, but they gonna think you said mac and cheese because we say Mike, all that. So, yeah.
All right,
let's do it.
So we got two segments of the rapid fire questions. You're familiar with rapid fire. I give you the question. You just say the first thing. Favorite pregame meal as a player?
Oh man, it's only one. We only ate one thing: chicken, pasta.
All right, pizza or tacos?
Woo, pizza.
Wings or burgers?
Wings.
All right, now you say wings, flats or drums?
Drums. Gotta go drums.
I'm a flat guy, man. I'm a flat guy. All right, this is a big one for me. So this may make or break whether we're going to keep doing this interview or not, even though we're at the end. Fries or tots?
Fries.
Thank you. I'm so tired of people saying tots. But way too many people say that.
Fries, man.
All right,
you can't dip tots like that. You know.
I know. And here's the thing, man. You can get soft French fries and it'd be okay. You get a soft tater tot and it's awful.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
Favorite movie?
That's tough. I gotta say this. It's the Bad Boys series and Liar Liar. But because Bad Boys has 3 movies and you said movie, I gotta go Liar Liar. But Bad Boys series
I love Liar Liar. Me and my brothers quote that movie all the time. Like all the time. Somebody do something stupid, you're like, I got him 10. Yeah. Just dumb short stuff like that, or like
that's my dude, man.
Or like when the guy puts the scratch on his car, he was like, here. He goes, oh, that was already there.
That boy said, you've been here before.
Yeah. All right. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Ooh, butter pecan.
Biggest fear.
Oh, we could be rapid. I guess fear itself.
Never had anyone give that answer. That's interesting. All right. Best player you ever played against. I think I know the answer to this one. I may be wrong.
From a team standpoint, T.Y. No. Yeah, either. Personally, Travis Kelce. Personally, mano a mano, Travis Kelce.
Favorite restaurant in the city of Louisville?
Burger Boy.
I still need to try that. It's closed right now, ain't it? Because of COVID, isn't that right?
I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's if you up, we open. So
you can't beat it. All right. Favorite football player and then favorite athlete ever.
Football player, Derrick Brooks. Athlete, Vince Carter.
Nice. All right.
I once heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not. Derrick Brooks, if you're listening, you can. I don't know. Once heard a story that when Derrick Brooks was in Florida at Florida State, he didn't want to miss any reps, and so he peed on himself. I don't know if that's true. I don't, but somebody told me that, and I'm like, bro, this is my guy. Plus, growing up a Bucks fan, he was, smaller. You know what I mean? I was a smaller backer. Coming up, I was 200 pounds, but yeah, man.
All right, so Saturday is Halloween, so I got to do the Halloween rapid fire as well. All right, best Halloween candy.
Twizzlers.
Worst Halloween candy.
Black Twizzlers. Licorice.
Yeah. Best Halloween costume you've ever worn.
Oh. I don't do costumes, dog. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever worn a costume.
Wow. All right. So best Halloween party you've ever attended.
2009, Kai's across the bridge in Southern Indiana, my freshman year.
Nice. All right. So are you familiar with the franchise sign and cut game? You familiar with that?
I'm not.
So franchise is like, if you're asking about players, you would say franchise, this is where I'm going to build my team.
Oh,
around.
Yeah.
All right. So we're doing the Halloween candy style. All right. Reese's Cups, Snickers, and Twix. You got a franchise sign and cut one.
Oh, man. I don't even eat chocolate, so I'll cut them off.
Oh, man.
I'll go Snickers because they got the peanuts. We go franchise. You say
sign.
Reese's?
Yeah.
We'll sign them and we're going to cut Twix.
All right. Favorite horror movie? See, I got to think on that too because I'm not real big on horror movies either.
I'm not big on them either, but maybe like Scream or something like that.
All right. Do you like haunted houses or no?
Yeah.
I like them too. I didn't like them for the longest time, man. And then when I was at Moore, we took the team. And I figured out that my favorite thing about haunted houses is watching other people get scared.
Exactly.
That's the best part of it is watching your friends get scared. All right, last one. Favorite Halloween villain?
Freddy.
Nice.
Hey, Freddy's a classic, bro.
Well,
he's funny too.
Yeah.
He's
so
funny.
I tell everybody that does the podcast with me, plug yourself everywhere. Tell them where to follow you on every. I don't care if you go on MySpace.
You follow me. You follow me on Facebook, man. Now, I treat my Facebook friends like my real friends. If I don't know you, you might not get accepted. That's just how I do it. Facebook is the personal social media for me. Mm-hmm. So Facebook is my name. You can hit follow or like or whatever on there. George Durant Jr. Coach Durant _34 at every other social media. Coach Durant _34. You can follow Kentuckiana Alliance for Athletes on Facebook. That is a platform that I'm a director of. You can also follow my 707 program and my out-of-season program we're building. We're working the softball team next. So Go Hard Sports Foundation. You can follow us at GHE7V7 on Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook as well. So Durant Digital coming soon. We're working on that. Durant Digital on Instagram. Sounds just how it's spelled, and it's spelled just how it sounds.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time out. I mean, we went for a long time. There's going to be people.
Yeah, man, we did. We might have to chop this up or something, man, and get this going. But, man, I appreciate you having me, Chief. And, I look forward to that. What was the deal? The NCAA pay or no pay.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get that together, man. And, now that you're in the city of Louisville, we'll have to get together or something, get some food when it's not so COVID.
And it's always go Rays, man. It's always go Rays. Till I DIE.
Yeah.
727, man.
Well, George, I can't tell you enough, man. I appreciate you taking some time out and, giving us stories that not other people have heard, how you came up and got to where you were going. So I appreciate you taking time.
Just so y'all thought I was playing about Blake Snell, you should have never came out the game. You should have never came out the game. Take it easy, dog.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
All right, Chief.